Come be a part of where Hebrew feels like home.
Discipleship Radio.
Come be a part of where Hebrew feels like home.
Discipleship Radio.
Shalom, Habarim, Shabbat Shalom, Senbet For this Shabbat Phinhas, Senbet Phinhas.
Psalm 60.
מזמור ט"ז נחתם לדוד.
Preserve me, O God, for in thee do I put my trust.
שומרני אל כי חסידי בך.
O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord,
אדוני אתה טובתי בל עליך.
Thou art my Lord.
אדוני
Come be a part of
My goodness extendeth not to thee, but to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent in whom is all my delight. Their sorrow shall be multiplied that hasten after another God. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. I will bless the Lord, who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore, 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 forevermore.
Yes, here in the ninth season right here. Yes, brothers and sisters, a little bit later right here. Give thanks. Yes, right here in the night seasons, right here for the evening podcast going into the new day, new day. Here we're in a new Torah reading and feeding the 41st sabbatical study Shabbat Strong. And here we're at the second day moving into the third day of the Shabbat, the 16th Psalm we have right here just to address. We have the 41st sabbatical study. Here, the 41st sabbatical study. That was a little intro right there. But here we have Phinhas, Phinhas, Phinhas. And some Yehudi, no, I'm just thinking, sorry, I got in the thought, went in the zone right there. But some bring it out as pinches. It look like pinches in the, pinches. I was thinking about, yeah, pinches or Phinhas or Phinhas. So the pe is the mouth. Fe, Phinhas, Nachas, brass. Nachas right there is brass, also related to the Hebrew word, the Afro-Shemitic word for the serpent, or a serpent, Nahash. So here we have Phinehas, another Torah portion, reading and feeding that's named after a personal person. So we have Balak, we have Yitro, some of the Torah portions are named after personal people. And here we have Phinhas, Phineas. Let's say the good one, because there's another Phineas and Hophni and Phineas named Vaughn Benjamin, and a tune, brings them out right there. But here we have the good one, right, or the zealous, the zealot. Here we have Phineas the zealot, right here. So here for this 41st sabbatical study here, for this Shabua right here, moving from the second day of the Shabua into the third day. Looking forward, the third day. But here, going to bring forward, I think, the first three aliyot right here. But here, just to get an overview. So here we're in Phinehas, Torah reading and feeding here, picking up with Numbers chapter 25 at verse 10 to chapter 29, right? Chapter 29, verse 40. For this 41st sabbatical study here for this Shabbat Strong. Phinehas. Phinhas, Phinehas. So Numbers chapter 25, verse 10. Here we go right here. Numbers chapter 25, verse 10 to chapter 29, verse 40. And if you recall from the 40th sabbatical study, Balak, right? Right? We actually are first introduced to Phinehas from the previous Torah reading and feeding, from Balak, right? Balak, in the latter portion of the 40th sabbatical study, Numbers chapter 25. So the first 9 verses, for continuity purposes, matters. The first 9 verses, Numbers chapter 25, right? Verses 1 to 9. But let's go over this right here. So here you see on the screen, Chabarim, those who can see the screen right there. The first reading, the first aliyah, Numbers chapter 25, verses 10 to 26 and 4. The second reading, right? Reading an aliyah, studying a aliyah, reading a day. So during the Shabua, first day, second day, third day. So here we're moving from the second day into the third day of this Shabua right here. Second reading, Numbers chapter 26, focus verses 5 to verse 51. And then we get to the third aliyah, the third reading, right? Coming up actually the next day, coming forward, the day that's coming in. So Erev Tov, good evening, and the evening leads to Laila Tov, Laila, the night, good night, Laila Tov, and to the morning, Boker Tov, Boker, the break of day, right? So for the new day coming in, we have the third reading here in this 41st sabbatical study for the Shabbat Strong, namely Numbers chapter 26, verse 52 to chapter 27, verse 5. Right? And then so forth and so on for this Torah reading, feeding. Fourth reading, Numbers 27 and 6 to verse 23. Fifth reading, the fifth aliyah, right? The fifth reading, Numbers chapter 28, verses 1 to 15. The sixth aliyah, the sixth reading, Numbers chapter 28, verse 16 to chapter 29, verse 11. And then we have the seventh reading here for this 41st sabbatical study, Shabbat Strong, for Parashat, Torah portion, the portion of Phinhas, portion of the brazen mouth, right? The brazen mouth, mouth of brass, Phinehas, also can be brought out interpretively from the ancient Hebrew as serpent mouth, right? Serpent, since we have Nahash, serpent, and Nahas. So there's a Hebraicism between Nahas, right, and Nechoshet, right, Nahas and Nahash. Touch on that as we move forward. But right here we have the prophets reading, just going over this Shabua, this Torah reading and feeding here for this 7 here. Already we're at 2 going into 3 of 7. Chant, time. So let's make the best of our time here on the air and in the Irish. So we have the prophets reading, Haftarah. Haftarah reading right here for this Phinhas, Phinehas. We have 1 Kings chapter 18. Focus verses 46 to chapter 19, verse 21. And in the New Covenant reading are the Brit Chadasha, the Adis, Chadish, Kidan. New Covenant reading, we have the Epistle to the Romans, chapter 11, verses 2 to verse 32. So briefly right here, the Torah portion for this Phinehas, Phinhas, Pinchas. We have the portion outlined here, Numbers chapter 25. So we pick up right here with the zeal, right? The zeal of Phinehas. What was the zeal of Phinehas? Phinhas, Phinehas. The zeal of Phinehas, right? Numbers 25, verse 10. Numbers 26, verse 1, to some of the overview, some key themes. There are many overlapping themes. You'll probably pick up on other themes within the themes, Chabarim, but some of the main themes. Firstly, foremostly, in this 41st sabbatical study, we have the zeal. What is zeal? Now, some of the Chabarim might already know because we've touched on this previously, but as principles of our study, right? The word for zeal, right? To be zealous or have zeal, right? The other side of the coin is like jealous. So zealous / jealous. We'll touch on that as we move forward. So what is zeal? And what was the zeal of Phinhas, the mouth, the brazen mouth? One thing is curious and interesting concerning this Torah reading and feeding. We take the plain meaning of Phinehas, Phinhas, right? The plain meaning, or one of the plain meanings, is brazen mouth, brass mouth, brazen mouth, as well as copper. You could say copper mouth because Nahash, copper, brass, that connection with the primary metals. And then we have Nahash, right, as serpent. So serpent mouth, brazen mouth. But here's what's interesting about this Phinehas. We say the good, right, or the zealous, and therefore in Yahweh's eyes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hashem, the good Phinehas. There's another Phinehas later on in the scripts, but here the good Phinehas. One thing that's interesting when we look at his name, brazen mouth, serpent mouth, he does not say a word. He doesn't say a word. We don't have one word, right, of Phinehas speaking here, right, within this Torah reading and feeding. Yet his name, right, from the Hebraic, right, according to the Hebraics of it all, his name means, right, brazen, like somebody who has a brass and brazen mouth. You expect them to be saying stuff. Or even on the flip side, serpent mouth, right? But he says not a word. So what was the zeal? The zeal of Phinhas, right? Phinehas, right? Then we pick up with Numbers chapter 26, verse 1, right? here, just addressing some of this Torah portion, this parashat, right? Parasha, the outline, commentary, right? Some of the outline themes. There's a census. So here we go with a census of the new generation, of the new school, the new generation. A census of the new generation, right? So that means that we basically, at this point of the Torah reading and feeding, we have gone through an overview of 40 years, completing 40 years right here. Right? So the new generation, right? There's a new generation, right? Roughly 40 years later, there's a new generation. That means that, as Yahweh said, a year, right? A year for a day. So according to the days that the spies, especially those who told lies, had spied out the land, part of the plea bargain that Moshe Rabbeinu made for that generation, instead of immediate death sentence, they got a stay, so to speak, of their execution, that generation, right, from previous, earlier in this fourth book of Moshe. And now they are consigned to wander in the wilderness for 40 years until all the men of war, all the warriors, all the men of war, because it's kind of, there's some irony, actually. They're the men of war, but yet when he got the report, right, about some challenges in the land, they got scared and they wanted to return to Egypt, right? And so that was it for Yahweh. But Moshe, he stood up for the people, he advocated, and he made a plea bargain, and therefore that generation would be consigned to wander to death, right? Right now, the next generation is on the rise right here. We've mentioned that from the previous Torah portions as well. There's a point in the narrative you can see that, especially from the previous Torah portion. Now, in some other years, right, these two Torah portions, Balak, right, and Phinehas, sometimes they are connected, joined together. But here we get an opportunity to zoom in. So we have a new generation and therefore a new census. In fact, Numbers, Bamidbar, in the wilderness, it begins with a census. It begins with like a head count of all, right, those 20 years old and upward, all the strike force, the army, the military, the ones who are a key portion. Notice this, according to Torah, the army, the military, those who are being numbered in the number, they're the key to inheriting the land. And the reason why the former generation could not go in, because they were scared. They had no confidence in Yahweh, and they definitely didn't even have confidence in themselves, right? So a census of the new generation, right? The children, right, of the children of Yisrael that came out of Mitzrayim. In Numbers chapter 27, verse 1, we have the daughters. So the census of new generation is mainly of the sons, just to note that there. Right? There's no numbering of the woman and children. I just want to make a note of that. Check what I'm saying? There's no numbering of the woman and children. Right? But the men of war, yeah. Right? And the servants in the holy place, yeah. Speaking about the Levites and the Kohanim. So here's very interesting here in this narrative here in this 41st sabbatical study, Shabbat Strong. When we get to Numbers chapter 27, verse 1, we have the daughters. We have the daughters of Zelophehad, the daughters of Zelophehad. So the question is, why were they, and according to the principles of study, why are they so important? The daughters, because basically, simple point here, basic point is that they inherit. So in usual cases, right, the woman does not inherit. And there are very practical reasons, especially according to the time, right, and the context for that. We can address that as well. But these daughters, right, these daughters are special here. Right? Partly is because of the honor. They seek to honor their father, right, who died, right, in his sins, and love how they bring it forward. They say, our daddy, like was the rest of these guys that died because they, provoked Yahweh. He died in his sins. You know what I mean? But should that be that his name perish and that there's none to inherit because he had no sons, right? And so there's an interesting case study here concerning Torah, right? And Torah is not commandments. We wanted to do a whole video on that. We heard some people having a debate, and they was talking about, well, Torah is commandments. It's the same thing. And I'm like, wow, these ones really not studying, right? To show themselves approved. But a case study here in Torah in the direction instructions, right? Concerning, right, the direction instructions. You know what I mean? And concerning the case that the daughters of Zelophehad that they bring forward, right? But we'll touch on that as well. These daughters here, we can also kind of quote the word of the singular, the commandment, falsely called the 10 commandments, but the 10 words, right? It says, honor thy father and thy mother, so that thy days be long in the land that Yahweh Eloheka giveth to thee. So the daughters of Zelophehad, make note right there, right? Numbers chapter 27, verse 12. And who says that the scripture is so-called sexist? Numbers chapter 27, verse 12, Joshua is appointed Moshe's successor. So Joshua, aka Hoshea, remember Moshe added one Hebrew letter to his name, the Yod, right? The Yod, he added the Yod to Hoshea, and now Hoshea is known as Yehoshua, right? Yehoshua, Hoshea with the Yod, Yehoshua, right? He is appointed as Moshe Rabbeinu successor, as Moshe's successor, right? And as the one to lead, right, the people in, right, to the land of promise, to the promised land. In Numbers chapter 28, verse 1, right, we have the daily offerings, right? The daily offerings, Numbers chapter 28, verse 1. In the same chapter 28, when we get to verse 9, something very interesting here. We have the Sabbath, the Shabbat offerings. You know why this is important, the Shabbat offerings? Because Robenu, Yeshua HaNotzri, Jesus of Nazareth, who the world calls Jesus of Nazareth, he, in the Brit Chadasha, when he speaks about that the priests, right, on the Shabbat day, right, that they profane the Sabbath, right, and they are guiltless, they are blameless. That's what he's pointing to. He's pointing to this, what's written right here. Right? And it's important for us to study it, because what does Yeshua mean when he says that, about the priests on the Shabbat day, that they profane the Shabbat, and yet they are guiltless, they are blameless? Well, it's because of the Shabbat offering, that even on the Shabbat day, there is an offering that must be offered. So therefore, at least from the perspective of the Levites, the Levites, and from the perspective of the Kohanim, the priests, there is work to be done, even on the Shabbat day. And what's that work? Well, the work is the work of the offerings. You know what I mean? In other words, the animals that don't just cut themselves up, right, or bleed themselves. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? The blood don't just magically, get to the altar and the bottom of the altar. You know what I'm saying? There's a process to this. And therefore, even on the Shabbat day, this is the key right here, Numbers 28 and 9, to what Moshiach, Yeshua, is saying in his reproof, admonition, and discourse, right, to the Pharisees, the scribes, to the religious folks who, are the, the religious authorities, right, in the first century time, in the time of the visitation of Yeshua HaNotzri, of Robenu, Adonenu. So check that right there, Numbers chapter 28, verse 9, right, and the part in the gospel where Yeshua speaks about, he says, have you not read, right, have you not read, right, can you read, have you not read? That means that reading, right, is a divine human right, right? Reading. Otherwise, why would you say, have you not read? right? So that means there's the expectation that one could read. It's like when we're reading in the Torah, and it says, "Thou shalt write them on thy gate. Thou shalt recite them. Thou shalt." So that means that one's, you know, would have been able to read and write. Just want to point that out because, in these latter days and times, it's not something that is so universal. But when we're reading the Torah, there seems to be an expectation, right, that the sons of Israel will be able to read and write. Because otherwise, how can we write it on our doorposts? How can we write anything if we don't know letters? You see what I'm saying? So Numbers chapter 28, verse 9, the Shabbat offering. So there are daily offerings every day, right? And there's also offerings on the Shabbat, right? That the priests, right, and the Levites, had to get done, right? For the sake of Yisrael. Numbers chapter 28, verse 11, they are the monthly offerings. So check this out. So they are the daily offerings, day by day, right? Right? Give us our daily bread. You heard that before, right? Well, there's the daily offerings. Then there's the Shabbat offerings, the offerings on the Shabbat day, right? Right? Even though most of the people, right, are to rest from their, check this out, most of the people, they have to rest from their regular occupational labor, their servile occupational labor on the Shabbat day, 6 days rest. I mean, fire. 6 days work, right? 6 days work and the Shabbat day rest. But notice the priests, right, and the Levites, they have work to be done on the Shabbat day. So we have the daily offerings, the Sabbath offerings, and in Numbers chapter 28, 11, we have the monthly offerings. That means on the observation, right, of the new moon, the Rosh Chodesh, Hebraically the Rosh, the head of Chodesh. Chodesh doesn't mean moon, but it means the renewal. Like it's a sense of that which is renewed. In other words, the cycles of the month, the cycles of the moon. Check, right? According to the ancient lunar solar calendar, right? And yeah, there's no such thing. People talk about lunar Sabbath. That's lunacy, right? Let me just point that out. The lunar, if you hear one talking about, oh yeah, it is actually, it's not the weekly Sabbath like the seventh day, it's a lunar. That is lunacy. Lunacy. Same site. So we have the daily offerings, the Sabbath offerings, the monthly offerings. Numbers 28 and 16, offerings, right? Offerings at Passover. See, the month is according to the signs in the heavens, right? The sun, the moon, the stars, you know what I'm saying? The lunar, right? The lunar aspect. But the Shabbat, right, is set according to the Shavuot. It's the seventh day of the Shavuot, right? So there are the offerings at Pesach, right? So when we get to chapter 28, it basically segues into the offering. Now, one might say, wait, didn't we have these offerings earlier? Yes, we had these offerings. Many of these offerings were mentioned earlier. More detail, right, in some cases is being given and applied. But remember that this is for the benefit of the new generation, the children of the children that Yahweh through Moshe and Aharon, right, brought out, well, through Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam. Right? We got to give Miriam, she's in there. She is in there. How do we know this? From the previous Torah reading from Micah, where Yahweh says to the prophet that he sent Moshe and Aaron and Miriam. So he sent those three, like a trinity, right? But it makes sense, like Moshe, right? Aharon, right? And Miriam, you know what I mean? The woman and the children, right? Do remember, right? So we have the offerings. So offerings are being like kind of brought out, right, from chapter 28. As we mentioned already, but to mention again, the daily offerings, the Sabbath offerings, the offerings on the Shabbat day, right? That the priests, who technically speaking, one could say, why they're doing work? The priests are still doing work, right? They're doing offerings, right? The same type of offerings, basically in principle, that they offered in the week, right? They are doing offering, right, on the Shabbat day, what Moshe mentioned. right? Yet they are blameless, yet they are guiltless. Why they guiltless? Because Yahweh said so. That's the plain thing. Yahweh said so. This is why what Yeshua was saying to the Pharisees and scribes and the false accusers, right, was basically saying that you're talking about what I'm doing, healing folk, on the Sabbath day, right? And you're blaming, right, he who is blameless, and you're trying to shed guilt on he who is guiltless, right? So it's a very interesting comparison that Yeshua in the New Covenant is making, right, when he goes to Numbers, right? He's referring to Numbers chapter 28, verse 9. And after Yeshua made his point, what did they say? They say, no, you're wrong. No, you're not interpreting it right. No, he shut them down. They had to be shut down, right? And to know themselves as hypocrites, right? So we have the monthly offerings, the offerings at Passover, Numbers 28:16, right? Numbers 28:26, the offering at the Festival of Weeks that we just had previously, aka Festival of Weeks is also called Pentecost, right? In the Koine Greek. Why? Because Pentecost refers to the Chamashim Yom. Chamashim Yom in the Hebrew is the 50th day, right? 50 days after Passover. But more specifically, 50 days after the offering of first fruits during the Passover season. Then we get to Numbers chapter 29, verse 1. We have offerings, right, at the festival, the feast, the festival of trumpets. So this is what we're looking forward, actually, right, to the appointed holy days, looking forward to the 7th month, the 7th moon, right, roughly around the September, October time. The offerings at the festival of trumpets, right, the festival of trumpets. Numbers 29 and 7, the offerings on the day, the Yom HaKippurim, on the day of the atonements. They said day of atonement. According to the Hebrew, we got to add an S to this. It's the offerings on the day of the atonements, plural, atonements, not Yom Kippur, as you might have heard or been made to believe, right? But actually, according to Torah, it's Yom HaKippurim, not Yom Kippur, but Yom, day. Yom is right, but not Kippur. It's Yom the Kippurim. See, Kippur is like one atonement. Kippurim is the atonements or the coverings. These coverings are the coverings for Kol Yisrael. Check. So in Numbers chapter 29, verse 12, we have the offering at the festival of booths. Festival of booths or huts, sometimes referred to as tabernacles, Sukkot, booths, huts, tabernacle. So you can see right here from Numbers chapter 28, verse 16, till we get to Numbers 29 and 12, is the offerings for the 3 times in the year, where all the males are to present themselves in the place that Yahweh Shemo Sham, wherever he Shemo Sham, wherever he sets, right, his name, Shemo, his name, right? So we have Passover, first of the 3 times, right? Of course, in the Passover time, we have Pesach, we have 7 days of unleavened bread, then we have the offering of the first fruits, right? Those 3 there. Then, right, 50 days later, we have Pentecost or Chag HaShavuot, the Feast of Weeks. We count 7 Shabbats, right, complete, right? And on the morrow after the 7th, so 7 times 7, 49, plus 1, 50. That's how we come to Pentecost in the Koine Greek, bringing out a synagogue Greek translation, right, of the Hebrew Chamashim, the 50th Yom, the 50th day. So that's the second, right, feast of Festival of Weeks. Then the final 3, right, the final 3 that occurs at the third of the 3 times in the year, right, the third of the 3 times in the year. The offering at the Festival of Trumpets, the offerings on the Day of the Atonement, and the offerings at the Festival of Booths or the Festival of Huts, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles, right, which occurs at the end of the year. Just want to point out, end of the year. Now remember, we touched on this already. 7th month. So what's up? We get to the 7th month. How do we get to the end of the year? Because Yahweh says so. That's how we get to the end of the year. But more importantly, it's to the end of the agricultural season, right? The end of the agricultural season, also the end of the ecclesiastical or the Hebrew churchical season, right? So we have the 7 appointments that occur in 3 times that occurs during the 7 months, right, of the first 7 months of the year, right? Then when we come to the Feast of Trumpets, the Feast of Trumpets correspond with what is known otherwise as Rosh Hashanah. So you might hear someone's argue, oh, Rosh Hashanah, that's not scriptural. It all depends on how deeply have you studied scripture. On a surface level, you'll miss it, right? Doesn't mean it's not there. Doesn't mean it's not scriptural. That just means that you missed it and you made a false accusation, saying that others are wrong, but you have not really studied very strong. So the festival of trumpets corresponds with the Rosh Hashanah. That's why you'll hear ones who know say, well, it's the beginning of the civil year. Why? Because at this point of the year, which is the end of the year, we are ending the ecclesiastical, the churchical, or the holy year, right? The year that we have 7 appointments to keep in 3 seasons, 3 times in the year. So when we come to the festival of weeks, right, we count, the months, the moons from there to the 7th month. And on the first day of the 7th month, Hebraically, we have this: trumpets, shofar. So for more details on that, Leviticus chapter 23 gives a good overview. But here, there's some details as it's given to this new generation, right? And the second counting, right, of the warriors of the children of Israel. The first counting we have is in in Numbers chapter 1, right? The first counting of the warriors, the vanguard, is in Numbers chapter 1, according to their pedigree, 20 years and upward. But then when we come to, the later chapters, like after chapter 11 in Numbers, we see what happens, and basically they lose it, right? Seriously, they lose it. But here, the Torah portion outlined according to the prophets reading from 1 Kings chapter 18, we have the drought. The drought ends. There's a drought going on. It says in the word that there would be like a famine, like a drought, right? Drought. Very interesting theme, right? So we see even in the scriptures, even among the holy people, even in the holy land or the promised land, there can be drought. We talk about, oh, look, there's famine in Africa, there's famine in Ethiopia. That cannot be God's land, because God's land don't have famine. Will somebody shut them up? Right? Because, see, we see it right here. The drought ends, right? The drought ends. Remember Abraham and them, right? Abraham was told to come out of Ur of the Chaldees. So he came out. He entered into the Canaan. And what's one of the first things that happened? There was a famine in the time of Abraham. Does that mean that Yahweh was wrong or the land was not the land? No. Things in time have to go on, right? There was also a famine in the time of his son, right? Yitzhak, right? And there was also famine in the time of Yaakov, right? So just because we have famine in certain places, right? Ethiopia, Africa, over in that land, that don't mean a thing. That just means that we should give thanks and praise to the Almighty, the King of the King of the Kings, right? But First Kings chapter 18, verse 41 speaks about the drought, right? The drought ends. The drought is ending. In the New Testament, right, it speaks about that as well. I think the book of James, right, speaking about how he prayed, and the heavens were shut up and he prayed again and how it rained. Yeah. So here we have the groundation, First Kings chapter 18, verse 41, the drought ends. In First Kings chapter 19, verse 1, Eliyahu, 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 he flees from Isabel, right? From Isabel or from Jezebel. Word? Wait. Elijah flee from, remember Elijah? Elijah's the same one that he slew how many prophets of Baal? He slew like 400 prophets of Baal, right? And after that, what happens? Right? We get this scene here. If you read and study the scripture, in context, right? But here Elijah, he flees, right, from Jezebel. This is interesting. Right? This is a man of God, but why does he flee from Jezebel? Right? Yeah. Jezebel, yeah, don't want to use the B word right now, but yeah, Jezebel, right? He flees from Jezebel. And in chapter 19 at verse 11, Eliyahu, he meets Elohim, he meets God, right, at Horeb. Now notice Horeb, right? Remember the Israelites at Sinai? One part, one side. Some say that one side of the mountain, right, was the Sinai side, and the other side of the mountain, right, was the Horeb, right? The back of the mountain, the front of the mountain. But still, Horeb, right, is where Eliyahu met Ha'el, Elohim, right? Then we have in 1919, Elisha. Who is Elisha? Elisha, right, is to become here in 1919 Eliyahu's disciple, right? Elijah's disciple, right? Elijah's Talmud, right? So that means that Eliyahu in respective was the Rab, right? The rabbi, you know what I mean? The teacher, right? And Elisha becomes his disciple, right? So we pick up with that right there. Now here for this Phinhas, right? Phinehas is the Hebrew name, right? Phinehas, that's translated into the, Phinhas, translated into the English Bibles generally as Phinehas, right? It is also the name of the 41st reading from HaTorah, because the second verse of the reading that says Phinehas, Pinchas, right? The son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon, HaKohen, the priest, has turned away my wrath. Numbers 25:11. Now, in this Torah reading and feeding, Yahweh makes a covenant of shalom. So here we have also another key, very important theme. The first theme right here is the covenant of shalom, the covenant of peace. All right, Yahweh makes a covenant, a berit of peace, or actually, I think in the Hebrew says, "My covenant peace." My covenant beriti shalom with Phinehas and his descendants. He orders a second census. Now, remember, this is the second census. Therefore, we have to ask, well, what was the first census? All right, to understand what's really going on here, right? Here, as we're coming to the end of the 40 years, kind of probation, so to speak, the 40 years, settles questions, right? Settles questions about inheritance in this Torah portion. There are certain questions about inheritance, where, as we mentioned, in the usual situation, right, woman did not inherit. Although, if you look at the Torah and you read all the names early of those who had inherited or were to inherit something, you do find there are, I think at least one woman's name that's listed, right, within that list. But here we have the daughters of Zelophehad. Now, the usual reasons is that, to defend land, right, men, the defender of the land would even have to give their life. This is what was required. And in the ancient times, this was the role of the men. Right? This is kind of one reason. And the reason that they inherit was not through, people talk about, oh, it was sexist, woo, woo, woo. No, it wasn't. Right? It was that you would not subject a woman to what a man should be, right, willing and able to do, to fight. Right? That's why even the census of the warriors, part of the means of ancient inheritance, was about also the fight. We'll get into more details, but certainly questions about inheritance are in this Torah portion. Also, right, there's the appointment of Joshua, as we mentioned, to succeed Moses, and then there's a list of the sacrifices for the appointed times. So notice, it goes to the daily sacrifices, right? It goes to the Shabbat sacrifices, right? As we pointed out right here, the Shabbat sacrifices, the monthly offerings, right? And then the offerings during the 3 times in the year, right? So portion commentary, check it out right here at the lojs.org for more detail. The man for the job, right? The man for the job, right? Based on Numbers chapter 27 and 18. So Yahweh said to Moshe, take Yehoshua ben Nun, son of Nun, a man in whom is Ha-Ruach, a man in whom is the spirit, the Irit, and lay your hand on him. Lay your hand on him. So we'll pick up with this right here, brothers and sisters and brothers, right here. Let's go through this right here just to catch up right here at this point of our studies right here. We have the first, right, reading, right, the first reading, right, Numbers 25. So we're going to take it to the third reading right here, right, beginning this Shavua, because by the time we go forward into the new day coming in, we'll be at the third reading, right, at the third reading. So stay tuned.
Come be a part of
Rastafari, LOJ, and Line of Jew Society.
where Hebrew feels like home.
Discipleship.
So right here, let's pick up right here. Numbers chapter 25, verse 10. Numbers chapter 25, verse 10. Right? Phinehas, right? Mouth of brass, brazen mouth, right? Mouth of brass, brazen mouth, or even serpent mouth, right? But notice that in the text, Phinehas, he doesn't say a word, actually, But here I'm picking up chapter 25. Let's do this right here, chapter 25. Now remember also we have the theme of the serpent and brass here in the Torah portion. So in a continuity sense, right, we're continuing with similar themes, Chaverim. Now here, before we even pick up right there, we got it. Okay, yeah, we got it. So right here, Numbers chapter 25, just for continuity purposes, right? Because we actually had left off on the previous Balak, right? After nine verses. And just to catch up right here, these are 9 verses, so we can continue the flow, right, of the narrative. So, and Yisrael, all as one man, right? And Yisrael abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people to the sacrifices of their gods. We brought out the sense of to sacrifice of their goddesses. It was the gods, right, that the daughters of Moab worship, right? And it brings it out in context in the Hebrew. And they did eat and bow down to their gods or their goddesses. Yeah. And Yisrael joined himself to Baal Peor, to the Lord, to the owner, to the husband, right, of the gap of the opening to the pimp of the opening. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel, all of them as one man, right? And Yahweh said to Moshe, take all the heads, take all the rases, the Rashim, take all the heads, the rases of the people, and hang them up before Lifnei Yahweh, in the face, in the presence of Yahweh, against opposite to, right, Hashemesh, against the sun. That so that the fierce anger of Yahweh may be turned away from Yisrael. And Moshe said to the Shoftei Yisrael, to the judges, the Shoftim of Israel, slay y'all every one his men that were joined to Baal Peor, that was joined to the owner, the husband, the Lord of the gap, the Lord of the opening. And behold, one, and look and see, one of the Bnei Yisrael, one of the sons of Israel, came and brought to his brethren, to his what? To his brethren, a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moshe. Now, let's recall that the beginning of the chapter, right, it talked about the daughters of Moab. But then in the previous Torah reading and feeding, Balak, right, a Moabite, Balaam, right, said to be a Midianite, or he was down with the Midianites. They were conversing, the princes and chief men of Moab and of Midian, right? So look how they misused their woman. Anyway, and his brethren, right, brought to his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moshe. Right? They were brazen, not hiding, not sneaking around. No, it was like open, right? And in the sight of all the congregation of the Bnei Yisrael, what were they doing? They were weeping. Question is, why were they weeping? Didn't you hear what I read in the verses above? Right? Think about it. How many sons, right, brothers, husbands, fathers were slain, right? Were hung, should we say, right? Who were weeping, right? Before, was weeping at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And then we come to introducing Phinehas, right? The brazen mouth of the serpent, right? Who says nothing, right? And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon, HaKohen, Aaron the priest, saw. So notice Moshe saw it, the congregation saw it, right? But when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of the priest, so let's also note, though it says here, the son of Aharon, HaKohen, if we've been paying attention, it's a little bit earlier that Aaron had died, right? Moshe took him up to the, to that mountain and everything, Mount Hor, right? And took off the garments, right? Basically stripped, right, the father Aaron of the garments, because the garments were symbolic according to the context with the role that one were, the role that someone what is. That's why when it says in the scripture, this is what confuses some people. When it says, thou shalt not wear, like the garments pertaining to a man, or not wear if you're a man, don't wear the garments pertaining to a woman. And if you're a woman, don't wear the garments pertaining to a man. If you're not a priest, then don't wear the garments pertaining to a priest. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? In that context. So the garments were taken off. That explains the background and the context of the whole David and Jonathan incident, right? Where it seems as though they're exchanging garments, right? No Batimanism, homosexuality, sodomite activity. That's just a figure of their filthy imagination. And besides, their ignorance, because they don't really study Torah. So they don't really understand what they're saying, right? So Phinehas, right? He is the son of the present high priest, right? Eleazar, he is the Moshiach. He is the Christ, or he is the anointed. See, I say Christ, we get mixed up because people are really mixed up about Jesus Christ, right? But that's why they won't really understand what we really mean when we say, well, Eleazar, like his father, is the anointed one, right? He's the priest. That's why in the new covenant it speaks of Yeshua, right? In Hebrews, does Hebrews explain that Yeshua is king? He's anointed king? No. It explains that he is the high priest. And the likeness is to who? To Aaron, but after a greater type, after the order of Melchizedek. So we have Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest. He's seeing it too. Moses saw it, the people saw it. But when Phinehas saw it, what did he do? And we all see something, but the next one, Phinehas here, he saw it. He rose up, right? Phinehas wasn't going to take this sitting down. Phinehas rose up from among the congregation. So he was with the congregation too that saw this folly, this uckery going on, right? And what did he do? He took a javelin in his hand. Oh, wow. He took a what? A javelin in his hand. I think we had touched on the word for the javelin for a moment. Let's just hit this right here. What's that word for javelin again? Right? Yeah, romach. Yeah, he took the romach. The Roma, right? You know what I mean? The spear, the lance, right? So he took the javelin in his hand, right? Took the javelin in his hand. And what did he do? Right? Did he threaten? Did he threaten? Yo. No. He went after the man of Israel. Check it. He went after the man of Israel. So that means that Phinehas is a Levite, but even more importantly, Phinehas, because of his father Eleazar, right? The connection of Kohath, right? And the priest, right? So he's a potential priest, but really up until this point, there's no mention of Phinehas as priest. Check it, right? But he is of the priestly family. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent. Right? No knock. You know when it says a no knock. Phinehas had like his zeal, Phinehas' zeal gave Phinehas a no knock warrant. He had a no knock. You know, when they have a no knock, we're not gonna knock, we're just gonna bust in, gonna just walk in. And thrust both of them through. The man of Yisrael and the woman through her belly. So it seemed like he was able to juke both of them at one time. I wonder what they were doing, right? So the plague was stayed from the Bnei Yisrael, from the sons of Israel. So now here at this point is telling us not only were many of them, hold on for a moment, let's go back here for a moment. Do we see the word plague in this chapter? Notice so far, we go through the chapter, right? It doesn't mention plague. It mentions their fornication. It mentions their other gods and goddesses worship. You know, it mentions the pimp of the gap, the pimp of the opening, right? You know, talking about Baal Peor, the Lord husband of the opening, right? It mentions that the men that were joined, the judges was given the warrant to go out and slay them, right? And it mentions that the children of Israel, you know, they were weeping, you know, because of all that had gone on, right? And then Phinehas seeing this guy coming along, continuing to do, you know, after all that had happened, continuing so openly and brazenly too, right? But here in verse 8 it says, so the plague was stayed, right? Because what happens when, like it's back in remember back in the 60s and the other time they have all this like free love, it's free love, everybody just fornicating, and stuff. What usually happens after that? People come down with the most dangerous diseases. Yeah. All right. So even though those who were the ringleaders of it and others who were involved in it were slain and hung, right, before the sun, right, there's still the after effect. Right? So the plague here, right, was stayed from the Bnei Yisrael. And then here's where we left off the previous Torah reading and feeding. And those that died in the plague were 24,000. I tell you this, that the majority of the 24,000 were men, the overwhelming majority. In fact, up until this particular point here, we can safely say that it's likely that there was probably only one woman among the 24,000 based on the text. Why do we say that? Because this Midianitish woman, right? So when Phinehas, right, took the man of Israel, right, who was also, they were so close, he and that Midianitish woman were so close that when he juked the man, he juked her through their belly, and they both died, right? So maybe she might be one, though she's not of Israel, so we can probably drop her from the 24,000. But the majority of these are men, right? So here's what we pick up right here, right? Here's what we pick up, right? Yahweh spake to Moshe, saying, say what?
Shalom, Habarim, Shabbat Shalom, send that salam, 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 salam. For this Shabbat Phinhas, send that Phineas. Here, Shema Yisrael, Shema, Rastafari, Hoy, Shema. Shalom, Habarim, Shabbat Shalom, send that salam. For this Shabbat Phinhas, send that Phineas. Here, Shema Yisrael, Shema, Rastafari, Hoy, Shema. Give ear, here. For this 41st sabbatical study, this Shabbat strong, here. The first Aliyah.
Come be a part of.
The first Anaphora, the first reading, offering up for this Shabbat Phinhas. Shabbat Finhas. This Torah portion reading and feeding. Hebrew, Phinhas. P, mouth, and Nahas of brass. P, pie, mouth, Nahas. Mouth of brass, brazen mouth, Nahas. Serpent mouth. Here we have first Aliyah, Hashem Ha'ab, where Habain, where Ruach Kadosh Yahweh Echad. Here picking up with the fourth book of Moshe, Hebrew book called the known Numbers. Here, chapter 25, verse 10. For this sabbatical study, this 41st, Hebrew first words right here. Daber Yahweh Moshe Lemor, and the Yahweh Yahweh HaKadosh Baruch Hashem spake to Moses, saying, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon HaKohen, Aaron the priest, hath turned my wrath away from the children of Bnei Yisrael, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consume not the Bnei Yisrael, the sons, the children of Yisrael, in my zealousy, in my jealousy. Daberi Yahweh el Moshe Lemor, Phinhas ben Eleazar ben Aharon HaKohen, Heshiva et Hamati me'al bnei Yisrael, Be'akano et kinati betoka, Ulo keliti et bnei Yisrael, Be'akinati. Wherefore, say, behold, I give to him my covenant of peace, my covenant beriti of shalom, and he shall have it, and his seed race after him, even the covenant berit of an everlasting kahuna, everlasting kahanet, everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous for Elohayu, for his Elohim, true good, true God, and made an atonement, Kippur, made an atonement for the Bnei Yisrael, the sons, the children of Yisrael. Now, the name of the Israelite that was slain with the Midianitish woman was Zimri, the son of Salu, a prince of a chief house, a chief bait among the Simeonites. And the name of the Midianitish woman, the Isha, that was slain was Kozbi. Cosby, the daughter of Zur. He was head Rosh Ras over a people and of a chief house Beit in Midian. And Yahweh Jehovah spake to Moshe, saying, Vex the Midianites, and smite them, for they vex you with their wiles, wherewith they have beguiled you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosby, the daughter of a prince of Midian, their sister, which was slain in the day of the plague for Peor's sake. Hear, Shema Yisrael. Rastafari, hoy, Shema. Hear. Fourth book of Moshe, Hebrew book. It's called Numbers chapter 26. The new generation of Yisrael numbered. And it came to pass after the plague that Yahweh Jehovah spake to Moshe and to Eleazar, the son of Aharon HaKohen, of Aaron the priest, Lamor, saying, take the sum of all the aggregation of the Bnei Yisrael from 20 years old and upward throughout their father's house, all that are able to go to war in Israel. And Moshe and Eleazar HaKohen, the priest, spake with them in the plains of Moab, by Jordan, Jordan, near Jericho, Lamor, saying, take the sum of the people from 20 years old and upward, as Yahweh Jehovah commanded Moshe and the Bnei Yisrael, the sons, the children of Yisrael, which went forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the land of Kemet. And hear, Shema, give ear right here, for the Sheni Aliyah, the second Aliyah offering up, Anaphora, the second reading, here for this Shabbat, Phinhas, Sendet, Phinehas. Hear, fourth book of Moshe, Numbers chapter 26, hear at verse 5, for the Sheni, the second Aliyah, the second offering up, the second Anaphora, Aliyah, here for this Shabbat, Phinehas, Shabbat Phinhas. And here, Shema Yisrael, give ear right here for the Sheni Aliyah, the second reading and offering up for this Shabbat. And here, Shema Yisrael, give ear right here for the Sheni Aliyah, the second reading and offering up for this Shabbat, Phinhas, Shabbat, Sendet, Phinhas. Here, the Sheni, the second Aliyah for this Shabbat, Phinhas. Here, picking up with the fourth book of Moshe, the Hebrew book, called Numbers chapter 26. Here, Shema, give ear, 26, Numbers 26, here at verse 5, for the Sheni, the second Aliyah, the second reading, offering up for this Shabbat, Phinhas. Ruben, Bikor Yisrael, Bnei Ruben Hanok, Mishpachata Ha-Hanoki, Le-Falu, Mishpachata Ha-Palui. Here for the second reading, the second offering, Anaphora, lifting up. Second Aliyah right here, picking up with Numbers chapter 26, here at verse 5. Reuben, the eldest son of Yisrael. Reuben, Bikor Yisrael. Reuben, the firstborn of Yisrael. Reuben, Bikor Yisrael. Reuben, the firstborn, the eldest son of Yisrael. The children of Reuben, Hanok, of whom cometh the family of the Hanokites. Of Palu, the family of the Paluites. Of Hezron, the family of the Hezronites. Of Carmi, the family of the Carmites. These are the families of the Reubenites, and they that were numbered of them were 40,003,730. And the sons of Palu, Eliab, and the sons of Eliab, Nemuel, and Datan, and Abiram. This is that Datan and Abiram, which were famous in the congregation, who strove against Moshe and against Aharon in the company of Korah, when they strove against the Yahweh. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up together with Korah, when that company died. What time the fire devoured 250 men, and they became a sign. Notwithstanding, the children of Korah, the sons of Korah, died not. The sons of Simeon, after their families of Nemuel, the family of the Nemuelites, of Yamin, Jamin, the family of the Jaminites, of Yakin, Jakin, the family of the Jakinites, of Zerah, the family of the Zarhites, of Shaul, the family of the Shaulites. These are the families of the Simeonites, 22,200. The children of Gad, after their families of Zephon, the family of the Zephonites, of Hagi, the family of the Haggites, of Shuni, the family of the Shunites, of Ozni, the family of the Oznites, of Eri, the family of the Erites, of Arod, the family of the Arodites, of Areli, the family of the Arelites. These are the families of the children of Gad, according to those that were numbered of them, 40,500. The sons of Judah were and Onan died in the land of Canaan, And the sons of Judah, after their families were of Shelah, the family of the Shelanites, of Pharez, the family of the Pharezites, of Zerah, the family of the Zaharites. And the sons of Pharez were of Hezron, the family of the Hezronites, of Hamul, the family of the Hamulites. These are the families of Yehuda, of Judah, according to those that were numbered of them, 16,500. Of the family of the sons of Issachar, Issachar after their families of Tola, the family of the Tolaites, of Pua, the family of the Punites, of Yashub, the family of the Jashubites, of Shimron, the family of the Shimronites. These are the families of Issachar, according to those that were numbered of them, 64,300. Of the sons of Zebulun, after their families of Sared, the family of the Saredites, of Elam, the family of the Elonites, of Jahleel, the family of the Jahlelites. These are the families of the Zebulunites, according to those that were numbered of them, 64,500. The sons of Joseph, after their families were Manasseh, and Ephraim. Of the sons of Manasseh, of Machir, the family of the Machirites, and Machir begat Gilead. Of Gilead come the family of the Gileadites. These are the sons of Gilead. Of Jezer, the family of the Jezerites. Of Helek, the family of the Helekites. And of Asriel, the family of the Asrielites. And of Shechem, the family of the Shechemites. And of Shemida, the family of the Shemidites. And of Hefer, the family of the Heferites. And Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, had no sons but daughters. And the names of the daughters of Zelophehad were Mahlah and Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. These are the families of Manasseh, and those that were numbered of them, 52,700. These are the sons of Ephraim, after their families, of Shuthelah, the family of the Shuthalites, of Becher, the family of the Bachrites, of Tahan, the family of the Tahanites, And these are the sons of Shutelah of Iran, the family of the Iranites. These are the families of the sons of Ephraim, according to those that were numbered of them, 30 and 2,500. These are the sons of Joseph, after their families. The sons of Benjamin, after their families. Of Bela, the family of the Belites. Of Ashbel, the family of the Ashbelites. Of Ahiram, the family of the Ahiramites. Of Shufam, the family of the Shufamites. Of Hufam, the family of the Hufamites. And the sons of Bela were Ard and Naaman. Of Ard, the family of the Ardites. And of Naaman, the family of the Naamanites. These are the sons of Benjamin, after their families, and they that were numbered of them were 40 and 5,600. These are the sons of Dan, after their families, of Shuham, the family of the Shuhamites. These are the families of Dan, after their families. All the families of the Shuhamites, according to those that were numbered of them, were 64,400. Of the children of Asher, after their families, of Jimnah, the family of the Jimnites. Of Jesui, the family of the Jesuites. Of Beriah, the family of the Berites. Of the sons of Beriah, of Heber, the family of the Heberites. Of Malkiel, the family of the Malkielites. And the name of the daughter of Asher was Sarah. These are the families of the sons of Asher, according to those that were numbered of them, who were 50 and 3,400. Of the sons of Naphtali, after their families, Jahziel, the family of the Jahzielites. Of Gun, the family of the Gunites. Of Jezer, the family of the Jezerites. Of Shilim, the family of the Shilimites. These are the families of Naphtali, according to their families, and they that were numbered of them were 40 and 5,400. These were the numbered of the Bnei Yisrael, the sons of children of Yisrael, 600,000 and 1,730. Here, Shema, give ear right here.
Come be a part of
for the Shalishi, Aliyah,
where Hebrew feels like home.
Aliyah, third offering up, the third reading. Here, Shema, give ear right here for the Shalishi, Aliyah, the third Aliyah, the third offering up, the third reading here for this Shabbat Phinhas. Senbet Phinhas. Here, picking up with the fourth book of Moses, the Hebrew book that's called Numbers chapter 26. Here, Shema, Israel, give ear. Numbers 26, verse 52. Here for the Shalishi, the third reading, the third Aliyah, third anaphora offering up for this Shabbat Phinhas, Shabbat Phinhas. וידבר יהוה אל משה לאמור לאלה תחלק הארץ בנחלה במספר שמות. And the Yahweh spake to Moses, Lamor, saying, to these the land shall be divided for an inheritance, according to the number of names. According to the number of Shemot. To many thou shalt give the more inheritance, and to few thou shalt give the less inheritance. To everyone shall his inheritance be given according to those that were numbered of him. Notwithstanding, the land shall be divided by lot, according to the names, Shemot, of the tribes of their fathers, their patriarchs, they shall inherit. According to the lot shall the possession thereof be divided between many and few. And these are they that were numbered of Ha-Lewim, of the Levites, the Lewawian, after their families, of Gershon, the family of the Gershonites, of Kohath, the family of the Kohathites, of Merari, the family of the Merarites. These are the families of Ha-Lewim, of the Levites, the Lewawian, the family of the Libnites, the family of the Hebronites, the family of the Mahalites, the family of the Mushites, the family of the Korathites. And Kohath begot Amram. And the name of Amram's wife, Isha, Eshet, was Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, whom her mother bare to Levi in Mitzrayim, in Kemet in Egypt. And she bare to Amram, Aharon were Moshe, Aaron and Moses were Miriam, and Miriam their sister. And to Aharon was born Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. And Nadab and Abihu died when they offered strange fire lifnei Yahweh before Jehovah. And those that were numbered of them were 23,000, all males from a month old and upward, for they were not numbered among the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Yisrael, because there was no inheritance given them among the Bnei Yisrael, among the sons, the children of Yisrael. These are they that were numbered by Moshe, Moses, and Eleazar ha-Kohen, and Eleazar the priest, who numbered the Bnei Yisrael, the sons and children of Israel, in the plains of Moab, by Yarden, Jordan, near Jericho. But among these there was not a man of them whom Moshe and Aharon ha-Kohen and Aaron the priest numbered, when they numbered the Bnei Yisrael, the sons, the children of Yisrael, in the Midbar of Sinai, in the wilderness of Sinai. For Yahweh Jehovah had said of them, they shall surely die Bamidbar, in the wilderness. And there was not left a man of them save except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and Yehoshua, Joshua, the son of Nun. Here, fourth book of Moshe, Hebrew book, called Numbers, chapter 27, the law of inheritance. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph. And these are the Shemot, the names of his daughters, Mahlah, Noah, and Hoglah, and Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood lifnei Moshe, before Moses, lifnei Eleazar ha-Kohen, and before Eleazar the priest, and before the princes and all the congregation, the aggregation, by the door, the Patah of the Ohel Moed, of the tent of meeting, the tabernacle of the aggregation, saying, our father died in the wilderness. Abinu, our father, died Bamidbar, in the wilderness, and he was not in the company of them that gather themselves together against the Yahweh, in the company of Korah, but died in his own Chatiyat, in his own sin, in his own Akri, and had no sons. Why should the name of our father be done away from among his family? Because he have no son. Give to us, to I and I, therefore, a possession among the brethren of our father. And Moses brought their cause, lifnei Yahweh, before Jehovah.
Come be a part of.
All right, Jay, you want to introduce the sign?
Where Hebrew feels like home.
Discipleship. Separation.
From the day I know myself, I've been a drifter. Oh yeah, I have been a drifter. my life has been changed from the first day I met you. Oh yeah, from the first day I met you. Girl, my life has been changed from the first day I met you. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. My life has been changed, yeah. I'm just a drifter for your love, sweet love, girl.
Rastafari, Africa is a must. So nobody force now cuss. You have to jump on this your bus. Zion born, right?
Psalm 48.
מזמור מ"ח, שיר מזמור לבני קורח.
Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth, is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great king. God is known in her palaces for a refuge, for lo, the kings were assembled. They passed by together, they saw it, and so they marveled. They were troubled and hasted away. Fear took hold upon them there, and pain as of a woman in travail. Thou breakest the ships of Tarshish with a neat wind. As we have heard, so have we seen in the city of the Lord of hosts, in the city of our God. God will establish it forever. Selah. We have thought of thy loving kindness, O God, in the midst of thy temple. According to thy name, O God, so is thy praise unto the ends of the earth. Thy right hand is full of righteousness. Let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Judah be glad because of thy judgments. Walk about Zion, and go round about her. Tell the towers thereof. Mark ye well her bulwarks. Consider her palaces, that ye may tell it to the generation following. For this God is our God forever and ever. He will be our guide forever, 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 forever.
מזמור מ"ח, שיר מזמור לבני קורח. גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, בעיר אלוהינו הר קודשו. יפה נוף משוש כל הארץ, הר ציון ירכתי צפון, קריית מלך רב. אלוהים בארמנותיה נודע למשגב, כי הנה המלכים נועדו, עברו יחדיו. המה ראו כן תמהו, נבהלו נחפזו. רעדה אחזתם שם, חיל כיולדה. ברוח קדים תשבר אוניות תרשיש. כאשר שמענו כן ראינו, בעיר אדוני צבאות, בעיר אלוהינו. אלוהים יכונניה עד עולם סלע. דימינו אלוהים חסדך בקרב היכליך. כשמך אלוהים, כן תהילתך על קצווי ארץ, צדק מלאה ימינך. ישמח הר ציון, תגלנה בנות יהודה למען משפטיך. סובו ציון והקיפוה, ספרו מגדליה. שיטו לבכם לחילה, פסגו ארמנותיה. למען תספרו לדור אחרון, כי זה אלוהים אלוהינו עולם ועד, הוא ינהגנו על מות.
Yes, 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 yes. Just fulfilling all righteousness there. The evening psalm for the second day of the Shabbat, Psalm 48. Now we have a daily psalm right here. A wise man learns from his mistakes, but a wiser man learns from the mistakes of others. A wise man learns from his own mistakes. A wiser man learns from the mistakes of others. So here we have today's daily psalm right here, the 16th psalm. Chabarim Mizmor Tate Zain. Tate Zain, Tate Zain. Hebraically, Psalm XVI, Psalm 16 is themed, Chabarim, happiness. Happiness to Elohim. Happiness to the Creator. Happiness to the Almighty Power. Happiness to the Judge. Happiness through Elohim. Now, apart from the tefillah, there's a tefillah or prayer in the opening words. The psalm, the Mizmor, Psalm 16, is a hymn of joy. So we have a prayer in the opening, the very opening words, right? Miktam, a miktam of Dawid, miktam le Dawid, right? Keep me, O Elohim, for I have taken refuge in thee. Shamreini El, Shamreini El, Shamrei, keep I, Shamreini El, El Almighty. Ki chasiti bak, ki because chasiti. I've taken refuge, like I've fled to you for protection. I've taken refuge. Ki chasiti bak, ki chasiti vach. Ki chasiti bak, in the eye. So there's those opening words right there. You know, the beginning, we have Psalm 16 here, verses 1 and 2. His acknowledgement of Elohim, his acknowledgement of the Creator, his acknowledgement of the Almighty Power, the Judge. So Elohim, the attribute, we can say the title or function, right, of Yahweh, of He who be, who He be, as Creator, Elohim, as Judge, Elohim, as Almighty Power, Elohim. So the opening first two verses is acknowledgement of Elohim. Then we have verses 3 to 4. He associates, he fellowships, right? Has his chavruta and chabarim. He associates only with the godly, right? The godly, the goodly, right? So here we have kedoshim. Now we touched on the Hasidim from Hasid, and a link in modern Judaism with what we hear of Hasidic. But here we have kedoshim. So these two terms, Hasidim from Hasid, also an attribute of Yahweh Eloheinu, Chesed, which means like mercy, brought us mercy, loving kindness. Here we have the term for saints as holy ones, kedoshim. As we get into verse 3. Verse 3 and 4, he associates only with the kedoshim, only with the kedoshim, only with the set apart ones. In verses 5 to 6, Elohim is his portion. Yahweh Eloheinu, right, is his portion. His portion. Yahweh Eloheinu is his. Now it's interesting because when we study Torah and we look at the Levites, right, the big group, and then the specific ones, the priests, right, they are not numbered in the numbering. You know that they are not numbered in the numbering of the Bnei Yisrael. So there's like two kind of you say census counts, right? We have the count of the rank and file Israelites, the warriors, and note in the Torah reading and feeding what we add for Phinehas. Now remember Phinehas, right? Phinehas, because of his zeal, his zealousy, not jealousy, his zealousy. You know, in Hebrew, the term kana refers to zeal, and in some translations as jealous. So the zealous, jealous, in a positive, a good sense, right? We can say zeal sometimes, and in a negative sense, we hear this idea of jealous. But just so that one can understand that in the Hebrew, right, based on the translation to English, it's one word, right? So sometimes they kind of tilt the word in translation, and we can touch on that in the Torah portion before us. But with the part about portion, where it says that the Levites are not numbered with the rank and file Israelites, right? The rank and file Israelites, those will be the warriors. So we have the warriors from the 12, and then we have, right, amongst the 13th, or amongst the tribe of Levi, those who are Lewi, Lawa, to join. They are joined to Yahweh, and specifically Torah says because they have no inheritance amongst the Bnei Yisrael. Their portion, we can say their inheritance or their portion is Yahweh. So Yahweh is their portion. Take note. So here in this Davidic psalm, this miktam of Dawid, in verses 5 to 6, he speaks of Yahweh Eloheinu, he who be our Elohim, as his portion. So it's kind of interesting because remember, Dawid is a Judahite, right? But remember, it says of Dawid, David was a man after Yahweh's own heart, but he's a Judahite. It's like when we get to the epistle to the Hebrews, it says, and nothing was mentioned concerning the altar, like concerning the tribe of Yehuda, but it's evident, it's manifest that Adonenu, our Adon, right, sprang from the tribe of Yehuda, of Judah. So here, Dawid, from the tribe of Judah, he says here in this Miktam, Psalm 16, Mizmor Tet Zayin, he says that Yahweh is his portion, right? His portion, right? Verses 7 to 8, right? 7 to 8, we get his relationship, right? The relationship with Yahweh Eloheinu. What is his relation? What is our relationship with Yahweh, he who be, who he be? Essentially at verse 7, it says, I will bless Yahweh, who hath given me counsel, yea, in the night seasons. Even here on the air and an irit for us and for many still in the night seasons. He says, my reins, or Hebraically, my kidneys, my reins, literally the reins are the kidneys, my reins, right, instruct me. In the night seasons, my reins instruct I. This is in section, his relationship, that speaks of his relationship with Yahweh Eloheinu. I will bless Yahweh. Abarek, right, Avarek et Adonai, Abarek et Yahweh, Asher Ye'atzani, who has given me counsel. Af, yea, for sure. Af, yea, for sure. Af, leilot, the nights. Af, leilot, yisruni, right? Surely the nights instructing me, yisruni, disciplining me, even a sense of chastising me, but the sense of instructing, right? Disciplining, reproving, yisaruni, right? Kiliot, the kiliot, right? Kiliot is the reins right there, or directly it is the kidneys. Kind of interesting, right? Right there. But here to the final portion is verses 9 to 11, which brings us to the, you could say, the root of the theme, Chaverim, of Psalm 16, right? His happiness, the happiness. Remember, Psalm 16, right, is themed and can be themed happiness through Elohim. Happiness through Elohim, right? Also theme refuge in Elohim, the highest good. Refuge in God, the highest good, right? Even look at the English, God and good, right? One has one O and the other has two O's. So anyway, refuge in God, the highest good, in the presence of distress, stress and distress, and in the presence of death, in the presence of distress and death, right? Now, the preceding psalm, just here, Psalm 15, it closed with the words. It closed with the words. What words? The preceding psalm, Psalm 15 means more teitvav. It closed with the words, right? We have right here. It says, here we go. Right. Uh-huh. Right. Ose, the doer, ele, the doer of these, lo, right? Lo yemot le olam. Ose ele, lo yemot le olam. He that doeth these things, ose ele, ose, the doer, ele, these, ose ele, the doer of these, ose ele, lo, not yemot, right? So the previous psalm closed with lo yemot, full lo yemot olam, right? Will never, sense of lo yemot, not being moved le olam, right? To time indefinite, or the sense of never ever being moved. This word of promise is repeated in today's daily psalm and the psalm before, Psalm 16, right? In Psalm 16, right, we get to the 8th verse. It says, I have set Yahweh always before me, right? Shawiti Yahweh li negadi tamid. I have set he who be who he be. Shawiti Yahweh, modern Hebrew. Shaviti Adonai. Here, ancient pointing, Shawiti, Yahweh, I have set. I have already said, he who be, lin negadi, before me, right? Before me, tamid, always, right? So this word of promise is repeated, right, from the closing of the previous psalm, Psalm 15, right? In Psalm 15, which is theme, God's guest. So in Psalm 15, we have Elohim's guest, right? Yahweh, who shall sojourn in thy tabernacle, who shall dwell upon thy holy mountain, Yahweh's guest, right? In the last verse, it says, he that doeth these things shall never be moved. Oseele, lo yemot le olam. Then we come to verse 8 of today's psalm, of Psalm 16, the following psalm, Shawiti Yahweh Linegadi Tamid, right? I have set Yahweh always before me. Ki mimini, ki, because me yemini, mimini, for from my right, yemini is like my right hand, ki mimini, because for from my right, to say my right hand, bal emot, I shall not, I shall not be moved. Emot, the sense of moved. Previous psalm, last verse, 5th verse of Psalm 15, it says, Osele, lo yimot olam, that one who does these, a doer of these, lo yimot, not being moved, yimot, lo yimot le olam, not being moved forever. Translation, never being moved, because the negation governs whether it is like ever, forever, right? If it's a negative, like lo yemot, not being moved, then the li olam would not be forever, but it'll be in the sense of never, right? So here we have the second part, right, of verse 8 in today's psalm. In Psalm 16, the following psalm says, ki mimini, because from my right, Baal Emot, Ki Mimini, Baal Emot, I shall not, right? Just like a tree planted by the water, right? I shall not be moved. So This is an utterance of faith in the mouth of Dawid. We are here confronted by a pattern recognition, a pattern of the unchangeable, beliving, admitting, crediting confidence of a friend of Elohim, a friend of the true and the living God of Elohim Chayim. For the writer, right, of Psalm 16, right, the context is that the writer of Psalm 16 is in danger, is in danger of death, as is to be inferred from the prayer that's expressed in the very first verse. What's that prayer? Right? Keep me, O Elohim, for I have taken refuge. Right? I trust, I flee to thee. Right? I've taken refuge in thee. And the expectation that we have, right, in the 10th verse. What's the expectation? For thou wilt not abandon my soul to the nether world, neither wilt thou suffer thy godly one, right? And here the term for the godly one, right, is not the kadosh, but the chassid. Thou wilt not suffer thy chassid, right, to see the pit. But there's no trace of anything like bitter complaint. So if you notice in Psalm 16, though it's a prayer, right, and there's an opening prayer in danger of death, overall the psalm here, the chant here is joyful and happy, right? Like the happiness, right? Even in the face of danger. Here in this psalm, unlike some other psalms, we don't have any trace of anything like bitter complaint, gloomy conflict, or hard struggle. The cry for help is immediately the cry that we have in the opening verse, right? Preserve me, O Elohim, for in thee do I put my trust. Right? The word chasa means like to flee, but it can also mean in a figurative sense. Literally, it means to flee someplace for safety, for refuge. But in the figurative sense, it's trust. Right? But right after these opening words, right, that call, that cry for help, it's immediately swallowed up. It's swallowed up by an overpowering and a blessed consciousness. Let this mind be in you, and a bright hope, expectation, right? There reigns and rules in the whole psalm a settled calm. In the whole psalm, what rules, what reigns? The settled calm, an inward joy and a joyous confidence, right? Faithfulness, always faithful, always sure, right? That is certain that everything, right? Everything that it can desire for the present and for the future, it already possesses in its Elohim. This is the soul, the psychic, the psychic connection right here, right? A certain, right? The certainty that everything, remind me of, what is that? Romans chapter, was it 8, verse 28? For we know that all things work together for the good of those who love Elohim and who are called according to his purpose. Now, even that verse there about called according to his purpose is interesting, right? Called according to his purpose, right? Because the word purpose, right, even in the Koine Greek there in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, is according to like his counsel. You see what I'm saying? That sense of counsel, right? According to his purpose. Let me see if I can bring this out right here for y'all before we ride up. So right here, just a touch on today's daily psalm right here. Let's see if we go to Romans. Let's go to Romans right here, because this is just our new covenant, kind of new covenant link, right? He's the same today, yesterday, forever. That principle, that pattern principle, right? So here we go right here. So here's the verse that was pointing out, Romans 8:28. And we know, it didn't say we believe, it didn't say we hope, we guess, they say we know, right? We know, right? And we know that all things, if you please, all things work together for good, right? To them that love Elohim, that love God, to them who are the called. Many are who are the called according to purpose. Actually, the word his is not there. It's actually according to purpose. Right? Are you called according to purpose? Right? Right here. Let's go right here. So prothesis, right? Prothesis, a setting forth of a thing, right? Placing it in view. In the tabernacle sense, it would be like the shewbread. Remember the shewbread? The 12 loaves of wheaten bread corresponding to the number of the tribes of Israel. Those loaves were offered to who? To Elohim, to Yahweh Eloheinu, every Shabbat. So another connection of the offering for the Sabbath, right? And also the work of the Levites and the Kohanim, right? But that's why they are blameless. They profane, yes, technically speaking, but they are blameless, as Moshe says, and separated into 2 rows. They lay for 7 days upon a table, the shulchan, place in the sanctuary or front position, front portion of the tabernacle. So the tabernacle, the tent, has like 2 parts, right? The first part is the Kodesh, and the second part is the Kodesh HaKodashim, is the holy of, get the word, Kodashim. Now I'm emphasizing this because here's the link of today's psalm. In Psalm 16, Mizmor Tet Zain, right? The holy ones in verse 3 are the Kedoshim, right? And the whole connection of the portion, right? Remember, we touched on section 5 and 6, verses 5 and 6 in Psalm 16 is themed that Yahweh Eloheinu is his portion, right? Is his portion, right? And there's a further link with the table of shewbread, right? And there's a link with this particular verse that we have here in verse 8, right? 7 and 8. When we get in 7 and 8, his relationship with Elohim. I have set Yahweh always before me, right? Like the shewbread. You know, the shewbread is set before, right? So the prothesis. Remember, this here is a prothesis, right? It's not the antithesis. You know, the antithesis. No, this is the prothesis. The prothesis, not the antithesis, right? Prothesis is a positive thesis. What is your thesis? Set it forward, right? So the bread, right, the shewbread was on the shulchan, right? The shulchan. And now verse 8, right, the annotator of the Shulchan Aruch, right? So Torah observant Yehudim, know that this is the compendium, Judaically, Hebraically, on Torah, on law. It's a document known as the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan is table. Aruch is like a set table, properly ordered table. Right? This is like that table of the shewbread, where the bread had to be properly ordered, right? From Shabua to Shabua, ordering, right? On the first paragraph in the Shulchan Aruch, right, quote these very words, the words from Psalm 16 at verse 8, I have set Yahweh always before me. Shuiti Yahweh le negdi tamid. Le negdi tamid. Right? I have set Yahweh, Shuiti, Yahweh. I've set he who be, le negdi tamid, before me, right? Always. So the comment, the Shulchan Aruch, right, the table properly set, begins with these words, right? The Judaic compendium on like Torah and law. This is a leading principle. What's a leading principle? Right? The words that we have, right? The words that we have over here. Right? Let's come out of this for a moment. The words we have right over, there we go, verse 8. Right? I have set Yahweh always before me. Shuiti Yahweh lenegdi tamid. Right? Leading principle. A leading principle in the true faith. Right? In the true faith. Right? And in, quote, true religion. Right? And in the upward, going to higher heights, the upward striving of the righteous, the tzaddikim, who halakha, walk out ever, right, in the presence, in the face of Yahweh Eloheinu, walking in his face. Remember how Abraham was told to walk before me, right? He was told by Yahweh to walk before me and be thou perfect, right? Walking in his presence, right? Do we walk? How do we walk in his presence? How do we walk in the perception, right, that he is before us, that we are in his presence, even when nobody else is around? How do we walk, right, in his presence, in his face, in his perception? Do we walk with his POV, with his point of view, right, his perception of view? Do we view life from his perspective? So this is a leading principle. Shuiti, Yahweh lenegadi tamid, right? I have set he who he be always, right, before me. To have the consciousness, that anointed consciousness. Remember, David, right, was said to be a man after Yahweh's own heart. Now we know heart in the Hebrew sense is an idiom that refers to the mind, right? To the mind. To have the consciousness of being always before him. And therefore, if we are before him, then he is before us. You see what I'm saying? Right? If we are in his, if we are in his presence, then he is in our presence, our perception, right? Always before him. This must and does profoundly affect, not just effect, but affect man's conduct. You know how we conduct ourselves. We know that, well, he's always before us. So even if there's nobody around, check, right? Man's conduct in every circumstance. That's why he says, as the second part of the verse is ki mimini, balemot, balemot, right? I shall not, balemot, like almost like never ever. I should certainly, it has a sense like never ever, like I will not be moved, right? Ki mimini, balemot, right? Why? Because at my right hand, from my right hand, right, as my guide and helper, and even in the ancient and sometimes modern sense, the champion stood at the right hand, right? The champion stood at the right hand, right? But also the guide and the helper. I shall not be moved. And this here links with Psalm 15, right? The previous Psalm to Psalm 16, right? Elohim's guest, right? Yahweh, who shall sojourn in thy tabernacle, and who shall dwell upon thy holy mountain? And then it gives a list of qualifications, right? And then we come to the fullness. It says, he that doeth these things, right, shall never be moved. So when you read Psalm 15 from verse 2, right, it begins to answer who can shall sojourn in the tabernacle, who shall dwell upon thy holy mountain, to say like who can be in your presence, right? Right, to give you an overview, he that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness and speaketh truth in his heart, in his mind, that hath no slander up on his tongue, nor doeth evil to his neighbor, nor taketh up a reproach against his neighbor, right? In whose eyes a vile person, right? A vile person is despised. But he honoreth them that reverence Yahweh. He that sweareth to his own heart, or evil, right? The bad, the bad, not beneficial, disadvantage. He sweareth to his own disadvantage and changeth not. Right? And it would say to make your yea, yea, and your nay, nay. He that putteth not out his money on usury, nor taketh a bribe against the innocent. Osele lo yemot le olam. He that doeth these things, osele. He that doeth the doer of these, osele lo yemot le olam, shall never ever be moved. Therefore, that one is qualified, right? Qualified and verified, qualified to be a guest of Elohim, right? He, right, benefits from his protection, his guidance and protection, and successfully, right, withstands the attacks of the wicked, the attacks of the ratchet. Right? This is why we connected this right here with Romans one more time, just one more time to Romans, right? Romans chapter 8:28. Right? This is, some might say a mantra in the sense of it's a kind of protection for mind. Right? A word sound protection for mind. Right? Think on these things. Right? And we know that all things, he that do all things, right, work together for good, for benefit, for good to them that love Elohim, to them who are the called according to purpose, according to prothesis, right? The prothesis. Here we go again, bringing out prothesis, right? The Koine Greek right here, prothesis, right? A setting forth of a thing, right? And here comparing this word, the prothesis, right, in the Koine Greek describes the shewbread, right, that is set forth, right? Right, prothesis. You see, secondarily, it's a purpose, right? The purpose, right? The purpose. Here, a setting forth, right? In the figurative sense, it's a proposal. What do you propose, right? In a sense, prayer, Hebraically, something like that. It has that sense of, setting forth. That is figuratively a proposal. It's intention, right? What? Intention, right? You see with the intention. Specifically, the showbread, the show enough, right? The showbread in the temple, right? In the tabernacle, as exposed. It's exposed where? Lifnei Elohim, before Elohim. It's exposed in his presence. Now, over here, let me see something right here, just quickly. I know I mentioned, right? I mentioned about, what was it? Was it council? Yeah, right here. Let me look at this right here. Azar, I call it Azar, and the Tov Lahem. Give me one moment. Hiroshima, Ba'atzato. Yeah, there we go. Ba'atzato. Right? In the Hebrew, right? Ba'atzato, Ba'atzato. Right? Basically means like by his ya'at, his advice. Right? His advice. You know what I mean? His advice. I mean, in a sense, it is what Yahweh said to do. Right? He advised to set the bread there, for the Kohanim. So right here, just touching on a few keys about this song, you know what I mean? And how it has rhema words for our life, our liberty, Ineffable happiness has been his lot here in this psalm here, Psalm 16, a miktam, a golden composition, right? Ineffable happiness has been his lot because of his complete submission, right, to Elohim, right? It is pure, speculation, right, to assign the composition to any particular period in Dawid's life. We can speculate that, okay, he said this in the earlier time, he said in the middle time, in the later time of his reign, right? But that's just speculating. It seems as though this is a principle, right? This is like a kind of a principle of Dawid right here. You know what I mean? The miktam. Let's get into this right here. It's a little bit right here on the miktam. Just some keys right here. Miktam. Miktam is interesting. Love to bring forward the midrash, right? The miktam, right? But miktam, simply put, right, as we have in the note over here, is a golden psalm, right? A golden psalm. Now, you remember going through the tabernacle and the different metals, the commodities, the Hebrew commodities. Why gold, right? Gold is a noble element. So gold, as it's used in the tabernacle for Yahweh's holy place, it represents divinity and manifestation. As silver, right, represents redemption, and as brass represents judgment. Just to check right there, right? As the brass, so the gold, right, as it's used in the tabernacle with the holy, represents divinity in man, in manifestation, right? The silver represents redemption, right? Redemption. And you'll see this is a consistent theme that can be applied from the Torah principle and also as used elsewhere. And the brass, right? The brazen, the brass for judgment. Mhm. The copper brass, copper slash brass. So miktam, miktam. So here we have a miktam of Dawid. Now, miktam right here, let's bring this out. Here's it in the Hebrew, miktam, right? Miktam. Some define this coming from the Hebrew word ketem. Ketem is a type of like fine gold, is ketem. Miktam. Miktam from ketem, right? Technical term that's found in the psalm titles. Some say the meaning is uncertain, right? But we have katam here. Katam, right, as the verb means to be stained, right? To be defiled on one level or deeply stained. Now, there's a twofold sense of this, right? Something stained, like dyed or deeply dyed, right? Now, it can be something being dyed in some way, being defiled, or that is through and through, the kind of through and through sense, right? Properly to carve, to engrave. Now, note that there. That is, by implication, to inscribe indelibly, right? To mark. So it's like this psalm is taken in that secondary sense, right? Right? Of the engraving, a poem, a composition, right? And the katam sense, right? But the miktam, what do we have in the miktam, right? Many would say that the meaning of the term is somewhat, some say, unknown. They say it either signifies a style of poem or a musical title. There are 5 more psalms, right, that have this particular title. Take note, right? 5 more psalms. Namely, there are Psalms 56 to Psalm 60. Psalm 56 to Psalm 60. And they all have the same heading, a miktam, right, of Dawid. However, there's no there's no peculiar feature to the group that can easily be discerned, right? For that reason, it is said that the second alternative, right, seems the more probable and likely, right? That is a musical title. Since I've gone that far, let me just share this right here from the Midrash, just this one part of the Midrash here on Miktam. I think ones might find it kind of useful, right? And incisive, right? So Miktam of David, Miktam lid Dawid. There are some of the Rebbanim, like the rabbis, the scholars of Torah, past and even present, but from the past, who say that Miktam is compounded of 2 words that describe Dawid, right? So Miktam, they look at it as the Miktam, right? 2 words, right? Mak at the root of the mik, right, means meek. And tam means like perfect. Tam means plain. Like remember, Jacob was a plain man, but the word tam. And also Noah was perfect in his generation, tamim. And in offerings, the offerings had to be tamim, and tamim come from tam. And tam means to be like perfect, like nothing more, nothing less, or the sense of undefiled. And there are others that derive miktam from ketem. Ketem means fine gold. And they say that miktam of Dawid means the golden psalm, or a golden psalm, right, of Dawid, right? A golden psalm of Dawid, right? So here, this is like to the opening right here, right? Preserve me, shamrei ni, shamar, right? Shamar ani, guard me, observe me, preserve me, guard me, keep me, watch, right? Keep a watch over me, guard me, right? The sense of hedge about. In the ancient, getting back to the kind of primitive root, right? Shamar properly means to hedge, hedge me. Like you have a garden, right? And you might hedge it about with thorns to protect it from certain animals, you may have young flowers and you protect it with thorns. So it's like the hedge about with thorns. That is to say, to guard something, generally to protect or to attend to, right? Shamreini, Shamrei ani, right? Preserve me, protect me, right? Remember for the Shabbat, right? It says to Shemor, right? Shemor, right? To observe, to guard it, to hedge it about. Protect me from evil, right? So when he says, keep me, right? O El, right? Shamrei ni El. So here we don't even have Elohim, but we have El, the root of Elohim, Hebraically signifying the Almighty, right? Protect me from evil is what he's saying. Shamreini, shamrei, protect, right? Preserve, guard, ani, guard I, shamreini, right? Shamreini El, right? Guard me, Almighty, protect me. For I have taken refuge in thee. I have said to Yahweh, thou art, right? Thou art, right? Adonai, are my Lord, my sovereign, my master, my boss. I have no good but in thee. Tobati, Tobati, Baal Aleka, Tobati, right? Good, right? Baal Aleka. The sense of this in the Hebrew is like, I have no good, right? But in thee. So here, let's bring this, come back right here. Give me one moment. Here we go, right here, right? What just happened? Okay, we took it back to the other part, all right? I have no good. You see right there, the second verse? It says, oh, my soul. Now, the word, oh, my soul is not there. The word, oh, my soul is not there. The word art is not there. The word extendeth is not there, too. Here we go, right here. Right, to this verse here, right, in the Hebrew, right? Amarita la Yahweh Adonai ata tobati bal aleka, right? Thou hast said to Yahweh. Right, so you see what it says, thou hast said to Yahweh, right? Thou hast said. Some bring it out in translation as I have said, right? But the key thing about this right here, when you study the Hebrew, is amarit. Amarit is like if I'm speaking to a woman, if I'm speaking to a man, and I say like to a man that you have said, it'd be like amarta, 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 amarta. The I has said, the I has amar, amarit. Amarit is like if I'm saying to a woman, right? You have said. This is why it's referring to the soul, because the soul is feminine in the Hebrew and Afro-Semitic languages, but it does not say nafshi. Naf, the nefesh is not mentioned. So when it says amarit, amarit, like it's saying to like you, female, has said la Yahweh to he who be who he be. So this is taken to be that my soul, my psyche, she has said to he, she has said to he, even he who be, Amarit la Yahweh, Adonai, Lord, Lord of his mercy, Adonai, Ata, you male. Ata is the pronoun speaking to a male. Ata, I have said. So what my soul says to Yahweh is, Adonai, Ata, you are, you, thou, the I, and none other are Adonai. My are Adonai. Adonai Ata are my Lord, my sovereign, my master, my boss, right? Or like in the context of Lord of his mercy, right? Have said, right? Adonai Ata Tobati, my my good, my pleasant, my agreeable, right? That which is good, excellent, rich, appropriate, right? That which is happy, prosperous, the full sense of good Hebraically, that which is beneficial, that which tends to happiness, prosperity, all the things that are beneficial, right? My beneficiality, Tobati, Baal Aleika, right? Now, here in the English, it says not to thee, right? This is somewhat of a awkward translation, right? Somewhat of an awkward translation, right? Apart from you, I have no good thing is more the sense in the Hebrew. Tobati bala leka, my only source of well-being. Well-being also can be brought out as the good thing, the good thing, right? Okay, the LXX. Okay, here, there we go. Right. So here, Amarit. Right. Apart from you, I have no good thing. Let's just look over here and see. I have no good but you, Baal Aleika. Baal, right, with the exception of Aleika, like upon you. Upon you, I don't have any Tobati. I don't have any goodness, right? There's no goodness, right? Except for you, except for the I. Right now over here, this is the verse that we was talking about. Let's get 7, right? So in the Hebrew, right down here in the Hebrew, the Masoretic, right, it says Amarit, 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 which is saying like to, if I'm speaking to a female, I'm saying that a woman, like I said to a woman, like you have said something, that you said something, like already said something, Amarit. If I said to a man, it'll be Amarta, right? Amarta, right? Now in the LXX and the Syriac and the Vulgate, they change it, right? Or have another way. They say Amarti, I have said. Now the connection of I saying, because my soul is a part of I, but more specifically, the Masoretic has it more correct, Amarit, speaking of the soul. So he's speaking of what his soul, right, in his soul relation have said, right? So from the opening general prayer, right, keep me, preserve me, Shamrei ni el, right, from a trusting soul, right? It's not a cry for help in a situation of like immediate danger, right? But there is a sense, right, that there might be danger. But he says, I, right, it says Amarit, right? The translation follows a different pointing of the Hebrew. Amarti instead of Amarit. Some say, right, I have said. Amart, right, is actually she has said, right? In the ancient version, the Masoretic must be rendered thou, female, has said, right? And if this is adopted, we must understand that the speaker is addressing his soul. He's addressing her. He's addressing his psyche. What do we say, Chabarim? A soul without instruction is headed for self-destruction. In other words, our psyche state, our psychic state, our soul, our mind state, we have to actually command our soul. We have to command our psychic state. We can't just let her, like I said, soul without instruction, right, is headed for self-destruction. So you'll notice that even in the scripts, right, it has the holy ones and the ancients as when they communicate, right, they both communicate concerning their psychic state, their psychical state, their soul state, right, and also they speak to their soul state, right? So this is like kind of ancient psychology, so to speak, right? So he says, my Lord, Adonai Ata, right? Now this is a noun, right? Adonai. Adonai is a noun here, and it's not speaking of the name, right? But it's speaking of the submission. Like when it says that Sarah, right? Sarah, right? She was a good Isha, so she called her husband Adon, Lord, right? So the soul, she, right, calls Yahweh Adonai, right? Adonai, my master, to whom I submit, right? Submitting your psyche to he who be who he be. I have no good but in thee. Baal Aleika. Yahweh, right, is the source. From that comes all that he desires, right? All that he desires. So here in this bait verse, and there's a whole reasoning that we'll probably get into another time on the Tobati Baal Aleika, right there, right? I have no good but in the I. The phrase, right? Adonai Ata, right? You are my Adon, Adonai, is to be considered in the light of what the scripture says. Remember in Psalm 24:1, the earth is Yahweh's. The earth, she is he who be who he be's, and the fullness thereof, and all of her fullness. The world, the Tevel, the moist, habitable portions of the world, right? And they that dwell therein are more better, and they that dwell in her. Hence, say the sages, a man embezzles. A man is an embezzler from Elohim whenever he makes use of the world without a bracha, without a baraka. So here's where, someone say, why Hebraically, Judaically, there's a lot of blessings. There's like kind of blessings, there's even blessings upon hearing certain things, seeing certain things, we give a blessing, right? Why all these blessings? And upon certain actions, right, we invoke the Baruch Atah Yahweh Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, right? Why? Because it's based on the principles from studying Torah and the Psalms that a man embezzles from Yahweh, from the Creator, whenever he makes use of the world without a baraka, right? For only affirmations. It's only by affirmations of Yahweh Eloheinu's Aina Elohim's sovereignty can release the earth's fullness to man's use, right? So here's what we want to kind of segue right here on this. I'm looking at the time, not to keep you too long, but just to, build on some basics. Here we have the blessings before eating, what's known as the Berkat Ha-Nehanim. What is the Berkat Ha-Nehanim? Right? Righty, right? The sages also prescribe berkot, blessings, to say before eating, right? It does not matter if one sits down to eat a full dinner or a casual snack. The berkot, the blessings before eating, and there are blessings before eating, and there are also blessings after. But here, the blessings before eating or drinking are part of a broader category of barakot. Barakot is like blessings, collectively known as the berkot ha-nehanim. These are called blessings of enjoyment. Blessings, berkot of enjoyment. They are said for things that bring one pleasure, right? Said for things that bring one pleasure, right? These berkot are not only prescribed for what we eat or drink, but also for fragrances that we smell, right? So even in burning the Aishans, they are berkot, right? They are berkot, you know what I mean? If you will, right? They say, bless, I will bless Yahweh. You see in today's Psalm 16, Mizmor Eta Zayin, it says in the 7th verse, what does it say in the 7th verse? It says, Abarek, 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 Abarek. I will bless et Yahweh. I will bless he who he be. Right? So we bless him, right? Even in the blessings known as the Berkot Ha-Nehanim. Berkot Ha-Nehanim, right? So these blessings are not only prescribed for what we eat or drink, but also for fragrances we smell. Remember Yeshua in Luke's gospel, near the end of Luke's gospel, right, when he was resurrected, risen, and some of his disciples didn't recognize him, right? And he reasoned with them, and then they asked him to come, have some sup. The evening time was come in. So that's what one with proper ethics, would do. You know what I'm saying? Like, come, let's sit down and break some bread. So he came down and broke bread with them. But before he broke the bread, Yeshua, my Adonai, knew, what did he say? He said the blessing. That's why it's a key thing in Luke's gospel. It says, and he said the blessing and their eyes were open. And he was known in the blessing, right? You know what I mean? Because Hebraically, Judaically, is very important, right? To this theme here, Chabarim, that we can reason on even here from this 16th Psalm, these more Tate Zion, concerning the blessing, right? Yeshua said, Baruch, right? Baruch Ata Yahweh, Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. And then he broke the bread, and then the eyes were open, and then he stepped, right? So although, right, we can discuss, here in this, there's a discussion of only the food, right? The food berkot, right? There are blessings that were formulated for things that we see and we hear. For example, right? Meriting, what merits a bracha? What merits a blessing, right? Right? Of Yahweh, a blessing of thanksgiving, right? Right? In the sight of the mountain. So we see mountains, go recognizing his creation, right? For that, a bracha, right, is appropriate. If you will, if you can receive it. It's not like you have to, but if you will, the way of the Kedoshim, right, is to say a bracha, right? oceans, deserts, right? Falling stars, a rainbow. A bracha, a blessing, is also called for when seeing a person distinguish either for his Torah or secular knowledge. So when we see someone distinguished for the knowledge, whether in Torah or even secular knowledge, right, that's a bracha, right? Because we know where all knowledge comes from. Check, right? When hearing either good news, we hear good news, there's bracha, there's a blessing, right? Bless, abareket Yahweh, right? I will bless he who be, or even for bad tidings, there's a bracha, right? Or when we hear the sounds of thunder and storm, right? That's one way of not being afraid, right? Give a bracha to Yahweh. You know what I mean? It's his creation. He is the creator. Now, in most prayer books, in most of the Sidurs, Judaic, Hebraic prayer books, right, all these barakot are found right after the grace after meals. Check. So there's what's known as the grace after meals in the Siddur, and all these barakot are found. But the barakot ha-nehenim are not barakot, blessings of thanksgiving. This is the key thing, right? That the barakot, right, ha-nehenim are not blessings of thanksgiving. What are they then? They are blessings of authorization, right? Blessings of authorization. The underlying principle of these barakot of enjoyment is that, quote, man is forbidden to enjoy anything of this world without first saying a baraka. So for the way of the righteous, let's put it like this, the way of the righteous, because we recognize that all creation and its principle is root is from Yahweh Eloheinu, right? Then we will understand, right, this connection that man, right, is forbidden to enjoy anything of this world without first saying a bracha, right? Because this is in a sense is how we pay him. We give thanks to him. We bless him, right? And we acknowledge that this good thing that we're enjoying in the world, right, of his creation is from the creator, right? So the Yahadut, right, takes seriously the teaching of Psalm 24:1, right? Yahadut, right, the ancient way of the Yehudi, the called, chosen, and faithful Yehudi or Jew, right, takes seriously the teaching of Psalm 24:1. The earth and all it or she contains is Yahweh's. That's what it says, right? The earth is Yahweh's and all of her fullness. The earth is gendered feminine, right? And he who be, he be he, right? The barakot, right, or the blessing is a way of asking for and receiving Kabbalah, to receive Yahweh's permission to take and enjoy that which, according to principle, belongs to him. The wordings of the barakot, they reflect this purpose. It doesn't say, right, the blessing doesn't say thank you, right, to Elohim, as is done in the blessings after eating. You see, in the blessings after eating or the grace after meals, that's where we have more of the thank you, right? But this does acknowledge him, right, as the one who, quote, creates the fruit of the tree, right? Creates the fruit. So even the second part of the bracha, right, the blessing, the first part is always the same because it acknowledges Yahweh, it acknowledges his position, not just calling him by name, but who is he, right? Baruch atah Yahweh, blessed, empowered to prosper, be he who be the I, he who be who he be. Baruch atah, blessed atah you, Yahweh, he who be who he be, right? Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu, our Elohim, our creator, right? Melech, king, ha-olam, eternal king, eternal sovereign, right? Who created the fruit of the tree, right? Or in another case, who brings forth bread from the earth. That's the part, that's the bracha, right? Judaic blessing. Remember what Yeshua said to Samaritan woman, that ye worship that which you know not. We know what we worship, for salvation is of Ha-Yehudim, because the Yehudi who did these things. And Yeshua also did these things. We have it right there in Luke's gospel, That's why it's written there, right? And their eyes was open in what? In the blessing. Check. And their eyes was open in the bracha, right? And he blessed the bread. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz, right? Who brings forth bread, hamotzi, right? Lechem, bread, mean from out of mean haaretz, who brings forth bread from out of the land, from out of the earth, and so forth. By acknowledging his ownership, check, we're acknowledging his ownership in the baraka, right? We seek to obtain a permit, so to speak, to use his gifts, to enjoy the things of this world without first receiving divine authorization, right? Was compared by the ancient sages to sacrilege. Notice that Yeshua could just ate the bread, right? But no, what did he do? He blessed it, right? And then their eyes was open, right? Why did he do that? He could just ate the bread if the blessing wasn't important, right? The stealing, right? The stealing of items that are consecrated to Yahweh, that are consecrated to Elohim, Eloheinu. It would be the same as taking something that doesn't belong to us without the permission of the owner, right? This underlying view provides a basis for resolving the problem that's created by an apparently contradictory verse that we have in Psalm 115, verse 16, that says, "The heavens are the heavens of Yahweh, but the earth he gave to the sons of men, the earth he gave to humanity." This is a clear statement and would seem to oppose, right, the earth and all she contains is Yahweh, right? It would seem, some can make that argument. Instead, it says that Elohim turned the earth over to man, right? For him to use, not abuse, but to use and to enjoy. The sages, the ancient sages found and saw no contradiction in this. Yeshua didn't find a contradiction in saying the bracha over the bread, right? Before one recites, right, a bracha or a baraka, they said, the earth is Yahweh's, the earth is his. After one recites it, it becomes man's to use and enjoy. So the reasoning, right? The reasoning, philosophy, the reasoning, right? The wisdom here is also the basis for the halakhic objection. Now, halakha, as we showed you before, the Hebrew term, not a so-called Jewish or Yiddish, it's not definitely not a Yiddish term, right? Halakha means walk. How do we walk these things out? We can read the psalm and read about the holy, but do we actually live it out, walk it out? Is our conversation, right? So the halakhic objection to reciting a bracha, right, either before or after eating forbidden foods. So therefore, there's a reasoning that if you're eating something that is forbidden by his word that he did not create to be eaten, that's the whole reasoning in the New Testament, where some people, they twist up some verses and say, well, you could basically just like give thanks to God, and then eat food that he forbade. But it says that those food he created, right, to be eaten and to be eaten with praise. You remember that part there? People think it's about, oh, now you can eat pork or other things, right? And therefore give a blessing. That's heathen. That's not the way, right? That is not the way, right? So to say a blessing before or after eating forbidden foods is a no. Actually, it's more of a, it's more of a fire burn. Right? If you're going to eat it, then just eat it. Don't even, you know what I mean? Utter, right? One might be inclined to think that the faith and piety reflected by a blessing of thanksgiving, or one that acknowledges Elohim's ownership of the world, it mitigates, it lessens the transgression. Because somebody might think, well, if you bless him, then you can eat that which he forbade. It doesn't mitigate the transgression, right? In fact, it aggravates it. The sages even insisted that it aggravates it. It's I'm like, how dare you? Right? I got to find that verse where it said the foods that he created to be eaten, like with thanksgiving, by those who like have knowledge. I'm gonna get that verse. In fact, let's go right here, right? The foods that he created to be eaten, right? Let's go over here that he created, right, to be eaten, right? Created, right? Created, right? Let's go eat. I'll put eaten, right? Let's see if we have that verse right here. Okay, let's clear this, right? Right, created to be, okay, created to be, let's say right here, food, right? Let's see, food right here, food. Let's see, we have this. All right, let's see right here. Oh wait, do we have the, let's see, we created it, right? Uh-huh. Let's see. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, food was, oh, I said food because that's what it really is, not meat. The meat is not like, it could be flesh, but it's just edible. Meat basically is meant in Old English something to eat, what's to eat. So here it says that these liars and these deceivers, they forbidding to marry, right? And to abstain from foods. Now the word meat is not meat, is broma, broma. Broma in the synagogue Greek or the Koine Greek means basically that which is eaten, food, basic food, right? It's not saying flesh, right? Food, right? 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 Allowed or forbidden, right? Food, just generally food, right? So here it says that these liars, these deceivers, they forbidding to marry, and they also try like forbid, right, or to abstain from foods that Elohim hath created. You see what it says? That Elohim hath created. So this New Testament, 1 Timothy 4 and 3, that Elohim, the Creator, hath created to be received, right, with thanksgiving of them that amen or believe or pistis, that pistos, that are trusty, faithful, right, trusty, faithful, right, right, here we go right here to scroll down here, trustworthy, faithful, right, that are persuaded, that amen, right, that basically believe or that are trustworthy, right, who believe, who credit, and who know the truth. You see that right there? Who know the truth, right? Right? This is why this is important right here, what we just shared right here, right? Where it says about, saying a blessing over forbidden foods. Some might think that it lessens the transgression, but actually it aggravates it, right? The comparison they make is to a person who asks a friend's permission to eat some of the friend's food, were his friend to say no, right? Say the friend said no, right? It would be sheer impudence, right? And brazen contempt if he proceeded to eat it, right? Like you ask your friend, can I use this? And he says no. And you go ahead and use it, all right? You don't think something's wrong? And the thank you, he followed it up with would only be adding insult to injury. All right. This is one reason why this verse is here in the new covenant. All right. This is one reason why, because saying that the principles remain the same. He's the same today, yesterday, forever. Right. Elohim have created the foods that he created to be received. Did he create pork to be, just use that as an example, right? Now, whether one does or not, you got to work that out. You know what I'm saying? This is principle over personality. Elohim, the foods that Elohim created to be received with thanksgiving, right? Of them that believe, amen, right? Yea and amen, and that know. So it's not just that those who believe, right, the truth. It's not just those who know the truth, but those who believe, who amen, who credit and know the truth, right? So those who've been teaching those lies, right? Hopefully ones can stop teaching those lies, right? Because there's a punishment for that, right? So that would only add insult to injury, since a blessing for food is a formula for receiving. You see the same language, receive, receive, receive. And I think that this verse here, and look at this verse right here, right? This verse here in the Hebrew, let me get this word here. Let me see if it is that word, right? Let's see. Yeah, let's see, Torah. Let's see. to be received by those mind who know the truth. Okay, yeah, I thought it was the Kabbalah word right there, to receive, right? To receive. They might have it over here in this. Let's see, right here. Yeah, those foods that he created, right? Remember in the beginning, talk about the foods that were created, right? Right. So right here, yeah. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, it's not there, but see the same language. God have created the foods that God have created to be received with thanksgiving. So that means that if He created some food to be received with thanksgiving, that there were other things that were created, right, not as food and not to be received as food with thanksgiving. It's according to what He, the Creator, created, right, and for the purpose, right? A blessing for food is a formula for receiving Elohim's permission to eat those foods He created to be eaten. And since permission to eat the forbidden food has already been denied, right, has already been denied by Elohim, to go ahead and eat it and then to thank Him shows only defiance and contempt. Better not to say a bracha, for in addition to the aforementioned objections, it is under the circumstances also a bracha, a blessing in vain. To such acts of, quote, piety, end quote, the sages applied the verse from Psalm 10 and 13. The thief who blessed has blasphemed Yahweh. Psalm 10, verse 13. The thief who blessed has blasphemed Yahweh. Because what did Yahweh says? Why? He said, Lo tignov, right? Don't steal. Lo tignov, don't the eye steal, right? So here we can go through some of the other blessings. We get into that more full at another time, but just to kind of bring out some basics here, right? In this Torah reading and feeding right here, just wanted to bring out some of the basics. One of them was on the blessings, over the foods, over certain foods, the reasons why. Not saying that one has to do this religiously, but understanding the principle, right? The spirit and the truth of it, right? So here it goes into different categories here, right? With scripture reference, right? Like the blessing over the bread. Here's the one, the blessing over the bread, right? In fact, let's do this here since we mentioned about Yeshua and the bread, right? Let's say, what it says right there, it says that he was known in the blessing, right? Let's see what it says, known, right, in the blessing, right, right. Let's see if this is the verse right here, right, right. Okay, known in the blessing. Let's see it like that. Let's see. Okay, he was known in the blessing. Okay, better yet, let's do this right here. Let's go right to the verse, right? It was Luke, the last chapter. It was the last chapter of Luke, the Emmaus Road chapter. Let's get in right in here. Okay, let's see. First day of the week or the next to last. Okay, right over here, Emmaus Road. Right. Let's go down here. Okay, yeah. Here it goes. This is the one right here. So it's the Emmaus Road incident. Let's make that simple. All right, let's go down here. Let's start with verse 13. And behold, two of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, that was from Jerusalem 60 furlongs, about 60 furlongs, right? And they talked together, of all the things that happened. And it came to pass while they communed, right, and reasoned, Yeshua himself drew near and went along. But their eyes were holding it, they should not know him. So Yeshua was right there, but they didn't even know it was him right there. All right. And he said to them, what manner of communication these that y'all have one to another as your walking are sad? And one of them, whose name was Cleopas, right, answering said to him, art thou a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things that are come to pass in these days? And he, Yeshua, said to them, red letter, what things? right? And they said to him concerning, right, Yeshua Hanotzri, concerning Jesus of Nazareth, Yeshua Hanotzri, who, right, was a prophet, mighty in deed and word, lifnei Elohim, before in the face of Elohim and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and have crucified him. But we trusted that it had been he that should redeem Yisrael. Redeem all nations or something like that. No, it says redeem Yisrael. And beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Right? Yea. And certain women also of our company made us astonished, who were early at the sepulchre, right, of the tomb. And when they found not his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of Malachim, of angels that said, right, that he was alive. Right? So no, everybody would think he was dead, right? But there was one saying he was alive. And they were like, oh man, you must be drunk. Oh, you're making up stuff, right? But he actually was alive. Right? But notice when Yeshua came to them, those, they couldn't really see him. He was there, but their eyes were withheld from seeing him. And certain of them that were with us went to the sepulchre and found even as the woman had said. Oh, wow. The woman was telling the truth. But him they saw not. Right now, notice notice who they're talking to, right? And he said to them, "O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that to credit all that the Nabim have spoken, all the prophets have spoken. Ought not Moshiach, the anointed, Christos Christ, Moshiach, to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory, Kavodo?" And beginning at Moshe and all the prophets, that's what we go through, the Torah reading and feeding, right? Moses, right? Moshe, the Torah readings, and the Haftarah, the prophets reading. Beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. And they drew nigh to the village. So they were, walking on the road, and they got close to their village, right? Their hometown, where they went. And he made as though he would have gone further. So Yeshua was like, yeah, all right, y'all, I'll catch you. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. Like he's about to go further. But notice what they did. But they constrained him. You know what I mean? No. Yeah, hold on for a moment. Right? Saying, abide with us. Right? Remember the Emmanuel? Emmanuel with us is God is with us. Abide, tabernacle. The word became flesh and tabernacled and abided with us. Abide with us, for it is toward evening, it's toward the Erev, right? And the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. Here it goes right here. And it came to pass as he sat at meat. Meat is not like flesh that is so much, but it's the food, at food, at sup, food, right? With them. He took what? Notice what he took. He took bread and he did what? And he blessed it. Baruch ata Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz, and break it and gave to them and divvied. He divvied it up, right, for them. Yeah, right. And their eyes were opened. The eyes were what? The eyes. Notice that he was walking and talking with them, but their eyes were restrained from recognizing it was him. Right? He was about to act like he was about to go a little further. He's gonna keep going, like he lived further down the road. And like, no, come on, like it's evening time already. Like come have some supper with us. So he went in, right? And as he sat down, at the food, right? What did he grab? Right? He grabbed the bread. Notice that. The first thing he grabbed was the bread. Right? He grabbed the bread, right? Got any bread, right? And he blessed the bread, break it, and divvied it out. And their eyes were open, right? And they knew him. Now they knew, oh, wow, right? And he vanished out of their sight, right? He ceased to be seen of them, right? He ceased to be seen of them, right? And they said one to another, did not our heart, did not our mind burn, right? Did not our heart, did not our mind, our heart burn within us while he talked with us by the way? Right? There's a sense of this way because it's like about the way. Remember the way? I am the way, right? Even before it was even called Nazarene on that level, right? Or the Nazarenes, right? What they were known to follow was the way. It was known as the way, right? Before it's called Christianity, it's the way, right? The way not to go astray. And while he opened to us, look what he opened to them, the scriptures, right? And they rose up the same hour and returned to Jerusalem and found the 11 gathered together, right? And them that were with them. And what they said, that Adonai Ha'adon is risen indeed and have appeared to Shimon. Here's the verse I was going to get to right here. Notice. And they told what things in the way, about the way, the truth, and how he was known of them. How was he known? In breaking of bread. Well, of course, he's known in the blessing, right? Before breaking the bread comes the blessing, right? And as they thus spake, Yeshua himself stood in the midst of them and said to them, Shalom lachem, shalom, peace to you. He didn't say Shalom aleichem. He didn't say peace upon you, right? But here, more intimate, Shalom lachem. So right here, brothers and sisters and brothers, just looking at the time right here. You know, we began a little late right here. But today's daily psalm right here. Did we touch on the psalm? We didn't even touch on the psalm besides touch on some of the selected verses. Hear this.
Psalm 16.
Oh.
מזמור ט"ז מכתם לדוד.
Preserve me, O God, for in thee do I put my trust.
שומרני אל כי חסיתי בך.
O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord,
אדוני אתה טובתי בל עליך.
Thou art my Lord.
אדוני.
My goodness extendeth not to thee, but to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent, in whom is all my delight. Their sorrows shall be multiplied that hasten after another god. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. I will bless the Lord, who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore.
Always wanna be shoes. I'm a happy man. I don't wanna be the shoes of the unrighteous man. I always wanna be.
Come be a part of.
Mizmor Tet Zayin.
Where Hebrew
Psalm
feels
16.
like home.
Mizmor Tet Zayin. Psalm XVI. Miktam Lidawid, a Miktam of David. Shamreni El, Ki Hasiti Bak, keep I, O El,
for I have taken refuge in the eye. Amarita la Yahuwah, Adonai Ata, Tovati Bal Aleka. I have said to he who be to Jehovah, thou the I art, Adonai Ata. I have no good but in the eye, Tovati Bal Aleka. Likdoshim Asher Ba'aretz Heima We'adirei Kol Chefzi Bam. As for the holy, the idle ones that are in the earth, they are the excellent, in whom is all my delight. Yerubu Atzobotam Achir Maharu Balasika Nisakehema Midam Ubal Esa Etashmotam Al Sifatai. Let the idols of them be multiplied that make suit to another. Yerubu Atzobotam Achir Maharu. Their sorrows shall be multiplied that exchange for another. Balasika nisakehema midam. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer. Ubal esa etashmotam al sifatai. Nor take their names up on my lips. Yahuwah menata chelki wukosi ata tomika gorali. O Jehovah, he who be the portion of mine inheritance and of my cup, of my chalice. Thou, the I, maintainest my lot. Chibalim anafluli bana emin afa nachlata shafra alai. The lines are fallen to I in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. Ibareka eti Yahuwah Asherah atani afle lota yisaruni kiliyotai. I will bless Jehovah, he who be. Ibareka eti Yahuwah, who hath given me, who have given I counsel. Asherah atani, yea, for show. In the night seasons, my reins, my kidneys, my emotions instruct I. Afale lota yisaruni akiliotai. Shuiti Yahuwah lenegaditami. Kimimini bal emota. I have set Jehovah, he who he be, always before me, always before I. Shuiti Yahuwah lenegaditami. Surely he is at my right hand. Kimimini, I shall not be moved. Bal emot lakin Samacha libi vayagel kovodi af besari yishkona lavetach. Therefore my heart is glad, lachen Samacha libi, and my glory rejoiceth. Vayagel kovodi. My flesh also dwelleth in safety. Af besari yishkona lavetach. Ki lo ta'azob nafshi lishol, lo titena chasideka lerota shachata. For thou, the I, wilt not abandon my soul, my nefesh, into the nether world. Thou wilt not abandon her to the nether world. Lo, ki lo ta'azob nafshi lishol, neither will the I suffer thy godly, thy chassid one to see the pit, thy holy one to see corruption. Lo titen chasideka lerota shachata. Toda'aini oracha chayim. Sova shemachota etapaneka. Ne'emota biyamineka netzach. Thou, the I, makest I to know the path of life. Toda'aini oracha chayim. In thy presence, in thy face is fullness of joy. Sova shemachota etapaneka. In thy right hand bliss pleasantness, pleasure, for evermore. Ne'imota b'mineka, netzach, 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 netzach.
Come be a part of. Come be a part of.
LOJ, Line of Jew Society,
Where Hebrew feels like home.
Ship radio.
Shoes of the unrighteous man. I always wanna be. Always wanna be in shoes of a happy man. I don't wanna be in the shoes of the unrighteous man. I always wanna be.
Psalm 16. Preserve me, O God, for in thee do I put my trust. O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord, Thou art my Lord. My goodness extendeth not to thee, but to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent, in whom is all my delight. Their sorrows shall be multiplied that hasten after another God. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. I will bless the Lord, who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore, 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 forevermore.
מזמור ט"ז, מכתם לדוד. שומרני אל, כי חסיתי בך. אמרת לאדוני, אדוני אתה, טובתי בל עליך. לקדושים אשר בארץ המה, ואדירי כל חפצי בם. ירבו עצבותם, אחר מהרו. בל אסיך נזקיהם מדם, ובל אשא את שמותם על שפתי. אדוני מנת חלקי וחוסי, אתה תומיך גורלי. חבלים נפלו לי בנעימים, אף נחלת שפרה עלי. אברך את אדוני אשר יעצני, אף לילות יסרוני חיליותי. שיביתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד, כי מימיני בל אמות. לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי, אף בשרי ישכון לבטח. כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול, לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת. תודיעני אורח חיים, שובע שמחות את פניך, נעימות בימינך נצח.
Psalm 16. Preserve me, O God, for in thee do I put my trust. O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord, Thou art my Lord. My goodness extendeth not to thee, but to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent, in whom is all my delight. Their sorrows shall be multiplied that hasten after another God. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. I will bless the Lord, who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At my right hand there are pleasures forevermore, 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 forevermore.
Discipleship, vibration, vibration.
Come be a part of. Come be a part
All
of.
right, LOJ, Line of Juice Society, Line of Juice Society, Line of Juice Society.
Where Hebrew feels like home.
Looking at thy hand, how they're writing upon the wall. That's why I don't wanna be in the shoes of the righteous man. I always wanna be in the shoes of a righteous man.
Yes, yes, yes. Happiness, happiness through Elohim. Be happy in he who he be. Bashem Yeshua HaMoshiach. Habarim. Here. This is seal up right here. Thank you.
Whatever you have done. Thank you, my brethren, for all your contributions.
This discipleship radio broadcast has been made possible by donations from audience and listeners like you. Give thanks. Thank you very much, Miss Ghana.
Thank you, my brethren.
This discipleship radio broadcast has been made possible by donations from audience and listeners like you. Give thanks. Thank you very much, Miss Ghana.
Whatever you have done. Thank you, my brethren, for all your contributions.
Yes. Lala Tov through the night watch. Here the night watches. Be blessed. Have a blessed new day. Shavua Tov. This Shavua here. 41st sabbatical study. Phinhas, Phinehas, more on that. But here I have one more outro, this little outro right here. A new dub that was Gladiators, the Gladiators, Happy. You know, was that the happiness? What's the tune right there? Let's get the tune. Happy Man, the Gladiators, Happy Man. It's a theme of Psalm 16, happiness through the Creator, happiness through Elohim. Be happy in the way, the truth, and life. Be blessed. Have a good night season, and a blessed Lila Tov and a Boker Tov here on the outro. Yeshua Shalom.
Psalm 16.
מזמור ט"ז נחתם לדוד.
Preserve me, O God, for in thee do I put my trust.
שומרני אל כי חסידי בך.
O my soul, thou hast said unto the Lord,
אדוני אתה טובתי בל עליך.
Thou art my Lord.
אדוני
My goodness extendeth not to thee, but to the saints that are in the earth, and to the excellent, in whom is all my delight. Their sorrow shall be multiplied that hasten after another God. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. The Lord is the portion of mine inheritance and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. I will bless the Lord, who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh also shall rest in hope. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore, 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 forevermore.
Come be a part of.
R-I-J, One to Society.
Where Hebrew feels like home.
As it was in the beginning, so shall it be. In the last days, when the youth them a preach and peace. Now stop, give thanks and praise to Alpha and Omega. Empress Maryland.
Discipleship of radio.